live betting reaction to all of the night's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Patrick Meagher, Dustin Swedelson, VSiN Live.
What the hell is this? Say hi. It is VSiN. I just got thrown off big time right there. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. It seems like Steve Cohen has gotten his grubby little fingers on the outfield to start the program. Dustin Swedelson, Los Angeles, a.k.a. the chauffeur. I'm Patrick Meagher, also Los Angeles. Nia Hardman, he's laughing because it's true. Ryan Smith, of course, in Las Vegas, of course, running YouTube. You can find us at VSiN Live. Give us a sub. Give us a hello. We got to get in the algo, kids. We got to get in there. Now, you just heard Steve Torrey talking about the quarterback room with the football giants. You are going to hear from Russell Wilson, that freak, coming up in just a bit. If we don't have to hear from Jameis Winston, I'll be a happy man because that dude's fraudulent and weird, and just Google him, all right, as far as that's concerned. A couple of things as far as just across sports to start the program. One, Patino Richard is on his way to Xavier from New Mexico. We are going to do something with the Sweet 16. Of course, tomorrow's a tremendous sports day. If you think about it, the big guy is fired up because it's officially opening day in Major League Baseball. Now, here's what I will say. We're going to hear from, apparently, the BFFs got together today. All right? That is Christopher Mad Dog Russo and the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. Now, it's generally a pretty lovey situation, so my assumption is they went in on each other again today. Dustin has clips. We're going to hear them together coming up in just a bit. And I will say this. Is it Wednesday? March 26th. Oh, yeah, it is. And I know that because I did my taxes today. California don't play, people. I'll just say that. I'll leave it there. Listen, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be from the great United States. But Uncle Sam is going to come, and Uncle Sam is going to pummel your ass. I promise you that. And I will gladly pay it because I was born free and continue to be free, Dustin Swedelson with the beard. Yeah, we're going to hear from Manfred. I'm guessing they were loving all over each other. And I saw Dog today on television. We need to have a conversation, people. What is the beard? Have you seen the beard, Dustin Swedelson?
Yeah, so he grew it when he was on vacation, whenever that was, came back. Stephen A. told him he had to shave it. And from what I remember today, Rob Manfred gave him some gifts when he came to the studio, and one of those gifts was a razor. But I'm in the other camp. I think Chris Russo looks awesome with a beard.
Listen, I'm not going to – I don't really have an opinion about it. I do like the fact that Manfred's doing shtick. You like to see Manfred getting in the mix there.
Maybe you could focus on making baseball relevant. I don't know. I'd rather.
Well, listen. You can say whatever you want. I think it's a great plan. I think starting on probably the most important day thus far of college basketball, I think opening up officially your sports opening day, I think that's a tremendous plan. Not today when there's I was going to say dick. When there's nothing, and I guess I did. When there's nothing going on. There's literally, today is nothing. And they could have had opening day today, and they decided to go with tomorrow, the first day of Sweet 16, that Thursday. It's not a great plan.
Look, I am always hesitant to criticize leaders, whether that's a business, whether that's a sports team, a sports league, whatever you may be doing. I'm hesitant because I am not a leader. I am very much a follower. But as someone who has followed at many places across the way, followed many people down paths that I didn't want to go, some ended up successful while I'm here with you on this show. I would say that leadership is important. And when your leader isn't thinking about how things can possibly go down the road with attention when you make money off TV ratings, I would be concerned with the leadership of the league and Rob Manfred. That's all.
I honestly have no clue what you just said. You talked about going down a path. You then went over to Manfred. We got there. I think you said you don't like what Rob Manfred did with opening day.
I would just be concerned if I was one of the followers of baseball. I'm not talking fans, the people who play baseball, these owners, that the guy running the whole thing doesn't have the foresight to schedule opening day on a day where people can watch easily.
You just nailed that. NL East with the big guy Core 4 Bets coming up in just a bit. He's a Mets fan. I talked to my accountant, actually, is a Mets fan, and he's not bullish on the Mets as much as some are. So we'll get to that. But it's a pretty awesome time of the year. And speaking of just sports on sports on sports, of course, you've got the Lakers tonight in Indianapolis. So they stopped by, and they being LeBron James, stopped by the Pat McAfee show. So we'll get into the comments there. It's about as open and earnest, Dustin, as we've heard LeBron. He went in on Stephen A. Smith. It's not going to make Dog happy. He went on Brian Windhorst, who used to come on the show all the time. Then he stopped replying to your text messages because he got a little big for his britches, literally, figuratively.
Yeah.
So we'll get to those comments. And why'd you get all sheepish when I said something about Windhorst?
Oh, no, I didn't want to step on you, so I backed away at the moment. I mean, I'm always, again, it's a little tough for me to criticize someone gaining weight. I mean, I'm losing weight, but I'm still pretty big. Just going to be fair.
You're a good man. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. So in lieu of tomorrow, one of the busier days of the year with opening day, Sweet 16, NBA, NHL winding down as well. Ovechkin got another goal last night. He's about to catch the great one as far as goals are concerned. You can go to VSiN.com and sign up for $1.58, VSiN.com/subscribe. Great deal. You get everything we offer. Become a pro for $1.58 for 30 days, and you will find the big guy near the top of that leaderboard, VSiN.com/picks.
Not to hijack this and make it all about baseball and how depressed I am that opening day's here. Like, baseball is my favorite sport, yet I'm depressed that nobody's going to care, nobody's going to watch tomorrow. You talking about Ovechkin brought this up. I think hockey is in a better place right now than baseball. I think hockey going forward, because you have baked in the entire country of Canada. I get it's not that many people, but they feel a lot more passionate than baseball, like nationwide, as a group, watching other teams, where baseball, you and I have discussed over the years, it's so regional at this point. There's just got to be a way for baseball to get more buzz. Manfred and Dog did talk about during the conversation, we'll play the clip later, about ESPN backing out. That makes me less hopeful for the future of baseball without ESPN, because I do believe part of hockey's resurgence into the zeitgeist is very much in part with the partnership with ESPN and being on the forefront of SportsCenter and whatnot. I think baseball is getting further and away. It's about to become a super niche sport.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Now, you've got the media roundup coming up in just a bit. Did anybody lead with baseball outside of Dog?
No, well, we had the same topic Tori did. Tori led with baseball.
There's always going to be consistency. But you did say something that's very important. Like, my mom, God bless her, she's a huge Detroit Tigers fan. So she's going to tune in to the local Bally's or Fox Sports or whatever the hell it is. She loves the broadcast. It feels like it's familial to somebody like my mother. But that's about it. When you start losing that national presence like they have on ESPN, you mentioned. And by the way, when ESPN walked away from baseball, they laughed at them.
Yeah,
they weren't like it was a tough decision. They were just like, yeah, we're not interested in that product anymore.
Baseball tonight used to be must-watch TV for me, at least. I used to keep up with the rest of the league with Peter Gammons and Harold Reynolds and Carl Ravitch and his wig. I used to watch all of that every single night. I had to be locked into it. That went away. ESPN stopped covering the sport as much, and people don't care as much because you're not force-feeding it to them. It's not readily available. And then I also think a lot of what we talked about the last couple days with all the options we have for entertainment now with streaming and whatnot, it's a little bit harder to keep up with something you don't love.
I know. Listen, I agree. And the problem is we like baseball.
I love it. It's my favorite sport.
You tell us all the time, and I appreciate that. But it's his favorite sport, people, in case you're keeping score. We'll get a ranking later on in the program. But Dustin and I do like baseball. When we were working for Mad Dog Sports Radio, the previous iteration, we would go to Dodger Stadium and do broadcasts during the postseason. Like, we went to Cactus League in Arizona. We're into baseball. The problem is, if you wanted to talk about it, and it's almost like the NBA at this point. If you want to talk about baseball and you want to talk about the NBA, what do you have to do? You have to bring up the drama surrounding. Because tonight you're going to talk about the NL East, and I'm going to be interested because you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to baseball. Most people are going to turn the radio off because you are going to earnestly be breaking down the division,
yes,
and nobody gives an F.
No, because if we were really lazy right now, if we wanted to do that and kick our feet up for the next 3 hours, we would say 888 Mad Dog 6. How do you fix baseball? I didn't do that. I was saying that's an example of if you wanted the layup of the day, how do we fix baseball? Because the reality is it's not the product. It has nothing to do with the product. It's how the product is being pitched to the people who could potentially watch it. Yesterday, we discussed Juju Watkins. And while it hasn't hooked you and I, there is a segment of people that have gotten way more into women's college basketball over the last couple seasons. That sport was able to hook a new audience. How come baseball continues to just lose that audience? The play isn't changing. It's the same as it's always been. They make a couple tweaks to the rules. But overall, they just keep losing the younger and younger audience.
Yeah, no, you said it well. Listen, it's a little bit of a dichotomy, what we're doing here with VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. And I don't know how long we've been doing it for. You know, I'm not good with time. You're better than I am. We've been doing it for a couple of months would be my assumption. And you're trying to find that happy balance, talking sports, driving calls, and then also talking sports betting. But what I would say about sports betting, even if you're you haven't gotten into it, you know what keeps you engaged in baseball?
If you don't think I'm going to have 50 bets tomorrow, you're insane.
Betting on the games. And you know what keeps Chris Russo involved in baseball? The future plays, where he goes in on 5-6 teams, an amount of money that none of us could fathom, but it keeps him hooked over 162. It keeps him interested, and that's the point.
Skin in the game. Little skin in the game. And, yeah, baseball potentially embracing that more. Obviously, baseball's had some issues with it in the past with Pete Rose and whatnot. But tomorrow, I can tell you this. There's a lot of winners on that board. We can discuss later, but there's a lot of winners on that board. Starting with the Brewers and Yankees, by the way, first 5 under all the way. Peralta and Rodon. Give me that.
All right, so we've got a lot going on just as we kind of gather ourselves right now. Tomorrow is going to be nuts. You've got, of course, the first of the Sweet 16. And whatever you want to say about the tournament, and the tournament has been a disaster. Nobody's going to come on and say this has been an exciting tournament. It's almost impossible to have games that are legitimately not close as it's happened, big guy. But what we do have with no upsets is we have a Sweet 16 that has a lot of marquee names. We have a Sweet 16 that has a lot of marquee coaches. So we're going to go through the programs coming up later here, which programs have the most pressure. And I've actually ranked the 16 coaches.
That's perfect. That is perfect because I'm curious who your top couple are because I have one with a bullet who I think is number 1. And then my number 2 would be, I think, a little bit of a surprise here, who I think has the most pressure on them. The reality is with the college basketball is it's going to get better. It's going to improve because these teams are actually the better teams. It's just for that first weekend, we wanted some craziness. We wanted some underdog stories. Now that we can put that past us, we're going to end up with an Elite 8, a Final 4 of teams that really deserve to be there.
All right, so 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. So we'll go through our college basketball with the Sweet 16 pressure meter. I've ranked the 16 coaches. We've got Major League Baseball opening day, plenty to do there. It's a busy time of the year. We've got LeBron sound on Pat McAfee, which is explosive. We've got Rob Manfred sound with Dog, which is romantic. No, just play it. People, don't take life so seriously. And then we also have Russell Wilson to mix in as well. So we'll get to that as we continue. Ryan Smith just let us know a lot of comments coming in on YouTube. Dustin, I'm going to need you in that
I'm
YouTube
in there.
chat.
I'm with them right now.
The big guy's in there. You can see he's got a handsome picture. That's him. He'll be chatting with you. If you are contributing in the YouTube stream, your comments will get read on the air. I promise you that. Some good calls lining up as we get the program started on a Wednesday, March 26th. Get them taxes done, people. Uncle Sam, he's not going to trifle with you. He's going to come. And there's a little something called an audit. And you could be a pauper or you can be Mad Dog. And they're going to come and get your ass. And I found out a figure today that I have to hand over to Sam that, I got to be honest, I might start passing around a hat.
Or You're just one parlay away from winning it all back.
No, I'm not going to gamble my taxes. I'm not going to try to gamble what I owe in taxes because you know what I'd have to hit? Like a 10-teamer.
Oh, it's that bad. It's that. Living by the ocean, it's expensive.
It's not great. Listen, it's going to be like church eventually. I'm going to be passing a lot of people that are dedicated to this network and this program for many, many years. If you care about us, I might open up a Patreon.
Because go fund me.
Yeah, go fund me, whatever you do when you're just asking random, whatever lazy people do when they want to do something and they're just like, well, I'll just ask people for money. You know what I mean? Like people, I love how people are like, I want to do a movie. So what I'm going to do is I'll just ask strangers to fund my movie. I'll do that for my taxes.
Yeah, and you'll get producer credit. You can tell people you produced my movie.
We've got, yeah, exactly. We've got baseball. We've got the Sweet 16. We've got Dog. We've got Manfred. We've got LeBron. And we have Russell Wilson talking about being a giant. We've got a ton to do. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Now back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Got some heavy hitters lining up. No pun intended with Major League Baseball on the phones. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. VSiN's 24/7 sports betting coverage is on SiriusXM Channel 158. So here's the deal, and I'm going to give you something special. This is for the big guy. Right now, VSiN is offering new subscribers an exclusive deal. Get your first 30 days of VSiN Pro access for $158. That's crazy. Turn tournament heartbreak into betting success. Daily best bets, exclusive betting splits, 24/7 video access, full VSiN.com access. Listen, you get everything, including the guide, the March Mania guide. VSiN.com/subscribe. Use the promo code Sirius, and you're going to get hooked up. You want to win some cash? You want to pay off those taxes? Feel free, people, to dip in. Hey, right before I get to the calls, here's what I'm going to do, Dustin. I'm going to lay out throughout the program my top 16 coaches.
Yes.
But I'm going to start with one. Because number one is simple. And if you have anybody else, I'm sorry, and I'm not being biased, all right? Right now, the best coach left standing of the Sweet 16, and this is a guy that you can talk about all time. It's Tom Izzo. It's Michigan State. And here's what I would say. Before you think I'm being biased because I'm from the Great Lakes State, and all my family and everybody I know went to Michigan State. Judging by the talent on this Michigan State team, Dustin, 0 players on the all Big Ten first and second teams. And they won a Big Ten title, 29 wins. They've got a top 5 defense. They're going to out-rebound you. It's not just about Izzo's longevity, which is crazy, the amount of Final Fours, the national championship. It's just that they're punching above their weight. You could argue it's the least talented team of the 16 left.
No, I think that's the case. The case is if you were going to rank the rosters 1 to 16, I think they're very clearly the worst. Like even BYU.
I agree.
BYU, you're taking over them because the depth of shooters and how that fits today's college basketball.
BYU can shoot it.
Yeah, Michigan State does not have three-point shooters. They're sub 30%, most of them from beyond the arc. No, I agree. The best coach, but to be fair, there's a little bit of Mike Tomlin and Tom Izzo right now. Would like to see him get a second title. Super consistent, makes the deep runs, does more with less like this year, gets the most out of the talent, but would like to see one more title for the accolades.
I'm not saying you're crazy. Here's what I would say. Watching Maryland, and I watched them a couple times during the year, but Kevin Willard has NBA players on that team.
Oh yeah.
He's got 2 legit bigs and 3 guards.
Like,
what if Tom Izzo had Queen and the other big and the 3 guards? Like, what could he do with that talent?
And why doesn't he get it? Why doesn't he have that? He's had it in the past.
Because he's not dicking around. You know what Willard's doing right now? Willard is campaigning so he gets more money because they don't have an AD at Maryland, or he's going to flip the job to Villanova where basketball rules everything. That's what it's come down to. Listen, the transfer portal is freaking open during the tournament. The sport is freaking hammered.
Oh, it's broken. It's broken. And to be fair, when we had Coach Campion from Oakland University, he said the thing that Izzo liked about his team is he likes guys that he can be hard on, that he can coach hard. So you do have to be a special type of player. Tom Izzo, with the game on the line, isn't going into the huddle and saying who wants the basketball. He has a plan because he's the leader of the team.
Yeah. Well, he has to. Because he's playing with JV kids.
They're 3 stars.
Outside of Jace Richardson, and he's fine.
No, Jace Richardson's only, and by the way, Jace Richardson's only there because of his father.
Right.
He didn't have a choice.
I got Izzo 1 of the 16 coaches remaining. Let's get to the calls. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. Again, it's a fun time of the year. This is kind of the calm before the storm this Wednesday. Because tomorrow is quite a sports day. You got opening day. You got the Sweet 16. You got a lot of basketball, a lot of hockey. So exciting time of the year. And we start with our buddy in Detroit, Mr. Tony. Tony, welcome.
Hey, how's my 2 favorite guys on the radio doing this evening?
What's cracking, Tony? How we doing?
Hey, real quick, before I get to the Major League Baseball topic, you were just touching on Izzo and the tournament. One thing on the tournament, maybe it has been a dud, but we're about to walk into heavyweight weekend. We might have some heavyweight. We could have 3 1s versus 2 games on Saturday and Sunday.
Absolutely.
So we're about to see some games. And about Izzo, now listen, I'll admit I'm a Wolverine fan, but when Izzo is a 5-star recruit like Jaren Jackson a couple years ago, he played 12, 14 minutes a game and sat on the bench, and he was the 4th pick of the draft. So maybe there's a reason there's no 5 stars So he has had a little.
That's a good point. That's a
he makes him earn it. He makes the best player earn it.
They literally, I think they lost in the second round, and Jaren Jackson was sitting on the bench for 10 minutes of the second half. The last game he played for Michigan State or something like that. I remember a lot of outrage here in the state.
Jaren Jackson Jr., who could be second-team All-NBA this year. He's literally. Yeah, I know. You're right. You're right.
And as for the base, you're hitting on baseball earlier and Dustin says not a lot. I'm with my son's age and my two boys and being around their friends, baseball is just so far down the list. And I know the younger kids, you're talking about, the gambling's a big aspect. And it's just not as instant gratification as an NFL game or an NBA game. That's where the NBA has so much more with the younger generation. And you were talking about putting in, futures bets. Young 21, 22-year-olds, they don't have the bankroll usually to put in the futures bets. They're trying to win nightly.
Fair.
And not that you don't bet on baseball, but I just know being around kids that age or men that age, and it's just there's zero buzz. They just don't care about baseball as much as maybe Patrick, me, and you did as a 21-year-old.
Well, no, but didn't you go downtown with your boys growing up at least every other year for opening day, whether it was snowing or it was a beautiful day in downtown Detroit? We'd go downtown for opening day. That's just not happening with the younger generation.
No, it's not. And my older son lives downtown at Wayne State, and he'll be at the bars for opening day. And
nice.
I took my boys to Comerica. We went to many a game, and they played baseball. They played it growing up. It just does not on TV. Maybe it's regional. And the Tigers got good last year and it created buzz here in Motor City. They were bad for a couple years before that. But it's just, I'm telling you, the NBA, the NFL obviously is miles ahead of the younger generation. I think it has something to do with the gambling, guys. I really do.
No, good call, Tony. By the way, what's fascinating about Tony is Tony and I are the same age. He's got a son that's drinking age. What the hell is that?
He's an adult.
He's gonna appreciate that. But no, it is true. Listen, we always talk about when talking about gambling, we say do it. Obviously, stay in your shoes, do it reasonably. But the people that are gambling are of age. They like the player props, and the player props they're betting are in the NBA. It's not Major League Baseball. It's just not.
No, the baseball player props are so difficult. Now, they do pay out a lot, the home run props people like to bet. But even me, someone who loves baseball, that gets a little too nerd analytical. It becomes a little too in the weeds. And you also will lose a ton before you finally hit on them. So it can be really frustrating. I just like futures, and Tony's right. You have to be willing to sit there with the money in the account for a long time. I just like futures because I can bet $50 on Corbin Carroll at 40-1 to be MVP, and I can get a big payout at the end of the year if he's in the mix.
There you have it. All right, let's get back to it and go to our buddy Al in White Plains. Al's old school. He likes baseball. What's cracking, Al?
The biggest buster in the lower 48 and the bull of the woods. This shows you how moronic the younger generation is. Because why is baseball the best sport? It's with you. Like a friend whenever you need it. And if you want to bet, forget about the futures. It's there every freaking night, all spring, all summer, right into it's the only game in town that you can bet every freaking night if you're absolute psycho, and you got to have action. And it's great to bet. It's great to bet outcomes. I used to line it up starting pitchers and trends last 3 outings when I was betting baseball every night. But these kids are just absolute buffoons. Forget about they don't understand the beauty of the game. If you want to bet, it's a great game to bet. You got to do a little homework, all right? But that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Speaking of homework, before we get to and my one baseball bet that I made, I'm a Cardinal fan. And by the way, a beautiful day in downtown Detroit. That's 3 times a year.
Settle down, Al.
I had no choice. When I saw this number, I had no choice but to take the Cardinals over 76. That is a win-win bet. A win-win bet. Okay, because if they go over 76, I win. If they go under 76, Oliver Marmol definitely gets fired. So that is the definition of a win-win bet. Now, The last time when Izzo lost with Jaren Jackson, do you remember who we lost to?
I don't.
I believe that was the Harvard of Central New York, the Mighty Orange of Syracuse with Buddy Boeheim knocking down threes from left and right. And
right.
Jaren Jackson spitting a bit and spending the entire second half on the bench. Because I have to agree with the Bull of the Woods. He's got a little Tomlin in him. He couldn't score 80 points with Michael Jordan on his team. All right, he runs a prevent offense. You know, they used to say Dean Smith's the only guy that could stop Jordan. When was the last time this team scored 80 points? And he's been a very successful coach. But he at least needs to get to another Final Four. It's been a while. They can never score in a big spot. Last but not least, we love the first 2 days for all the action and nonstop and Cinderellas, even though we didn't get much of it. But these next 2 nights are the best nights because we have the Sweet 16. We've got game after game after game after game, Thursday and Friday night, and this is when it's all on the line. Because Elite Eight, okay, that's what it's up. Getting to those regional finals, that's the real magic because you're playing to get to the real. The big dance used to be the Final Four with Al McGuire. Then year after year, as it became more exposed, the big dance was the tournament itself. The real big dance is the Final Four, and we're almost there. I love the Sweet 16. I love these games. I'm intrigued by Florida getting by. Is that their one test? But this Maryland team, as you said, is loaded with talent.
Loaded.
And Willard's a really good coach. So I've just got a hunch that what's Maryland catching, 5.5?
Yeah, it's something close to 5. It's 6, maybe up to 6.5 actually.
I like Maryland a little bit, and the biggest disappointment will be is if this Alabama-BYU game does not go over.
It's going over, Alex. It's great to hear from you, as always. And Marmol should not be the coach of the Redbirds. I don't know what he's still doing there. That is the biggest joke of all time. I was getting attacked by a gnat there on the YouTube stream. Listen. I do want to say something about Izzo because there was a very close tie for my second best coach left in the Sweet 16. And if I'm being completely honest, in a one-game vacuum, I might take Calvin Sampson.
Oh, that's the only debate. The only debate is Izzo or Sampson.
Dude, he brought Houston to the Big 12 and won back-to-back conference titles. They've won 28 of their last 29. They've got an efficient offense this year. Like, he might do everything Izzo does. You know what? It's hard to discern. There's not much of a chasm between Izzo and Sampson, because I love Calvin Sampson.
No, Kelvin, what he's accomplished at Houston,
it's insane.
You mentioned it. The AAC first, but now he's evolved. Like, they just don't play one style. The fact that they're now
Correct.
a three-point shooting team, he's not just trying to muck it up. He's willing to adjust what he was doing originally that put them on the map. He said, you know what? We have to play a different brand of basketball. I'm not so sure you give equal rosters to everyone in the field. Maybe everyone in the country. Kelvin Sampson's not the last man standing.
You know what? You just made the best point. You made the best point. He is in the Izzo mold, but he has a team that's top 15 in offensive efficiency this year. So he's shown an ability to adjust with the new era, which is what he's done this year. Number 1 in three-point offense by percentage. So Sampson, you might take Sampson over Izzo. That's the bottom line.
If you're building a program, you want to compete every year, I think the answer is Izzo. If you're looking for just a tactician, in-game coach, I think it's Sampson. Because I do think the defensive style they play, they can disrupt anyone. You bring any style for the fight, they're going to mess it up. They're going to make you sloppy. It's just now he has the offense to go shot for shot with you if he has to.
Yeah, you're right. Look, for me,
it's a conversation.
For my money, it's Izzo and Sampson. Then we can start talking about the 14 other coaches.
Yeah, I was going to say Bruce Pearl wasn't in the mix for 1 or 2. That's interesting.
No, Bruce Pearl is definitely not in the mix. 888-623-3646. Let's go here in Los Angeles and talk to our buddy David on VSiN Live. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing well, Patrick and Dustin. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Of course.
So, with the baseball season starting tomorrow, I want to see if the two of you as well as any following callers would love to play a little game here. It's a little just for fun game here that I played on social media with some other baseball fans. So it is a monkey paw wish game, and that is, other than wishing to win the World Series, because, if we allow that, everyone's going to wish that. You are allowed to make one monkey paw wish for your baseball team that is guaranteed to come true this upcoming season. However, the next caller picks the consequence of your wish. So let me give you some examples of what the results were when I played this on social media with some other baseball fans. An A's fan said, I wish for the A's to permanently move back to Oakland and for John Fisher to no longer be the owner. The person who responded with the consequence said, yeah, but your new owner is going to be Dan Snyder. A Rockies fan said, I wish for fewer than 100 losses. The consequence was the season is shortened to 99 games and you still lose all of them. A Pirates fan said, I wish for Paul Skeens to win the NL Cy Young Award. The consequence was, yeah, but he still has to pitch for the Pirates. So I want to see if you or any of the following callers would like to play this little game. Make a wish for your team, and then the next person who responds picks the consequence. Then they make a wish, and the next person who responds, they pick the consequence.
You know what, David? Here's what I would say. It's a little convoluted, not terrible. It's hard to play games on the radio, but here's what I would say. Dustin is co-hosting and producing this program currently. You could be a producer if you want to just send in a resume to Steve Cohen. Maybe we'll get you in the mix.
Have you ever heard that phrase, monkey paw wish? I'd never heard that till just now. That is a new one.
Monkey paw wish?
Do monkeys have paws because they're primates? I think they have hands like us.
No, I have not. I have not heard that game. But interesting nonetheless. My wish is look. Nothing that the Tigers do. I'm a Detroit Tigers fan. Nothing the Tigers do this year could ever top what they did with that trifling roster last year. So it's like they've upgraded a little bit, so it'll never be as exciting as getting to the postseason last year with legitimately the worst roster in 130 years of baseball.
But at the same time, I do think that your Detroit Tigers are going to win that division. I
mean, they're pretty short.
Well, the whole division's short. I did hear something on VSiN earlier today about the Westgate reporting. They received a lot of sharp money on the Minnesota Twins. Imagine looking at the Minnesota Twins any year and going, I love this team. They're always the same nondescript pitching staff. They're dealing with injuries. I think they're getting worse. The Twins are their three best hitters. Correa, Buxton, and Royce Lewis are constantly hurt. I think the Royals, what they did last year, is not repeatable from a pitching standpoint. I think everything with the Tigers, young players going to get better. You have the best pitcher in baseball. Yeah, we're going with the Tigers to win that division.
Yeah, we were debating that last night, and I kind of caught the big guy tongue-tied because the perception is Paul Skeens, but Tarek Skubal, I'm telling you right now, he's one of the greatest I've ever seen.
No, the ball, it jumps out of his. It's a very different approach than Skeens. Now, the ball jumps out of Skeens' hands, but it's different. It feels like a heavy ball. With Skubal, it feels like the ball's ready to go more than 60 feet, 6 inches. That's how hard he's throwing.
But his pinpoint accuracy, his control, he doesn't throw balls, dude. So he's never – and as a lefty, he's a big boy, and he's throwing 100 miles an hour. Imagine
thinking Casey Mize was going to be better than him.
You don't understand. No, it's too soon. You don't understand what Casey Mize meant to the Tigers fan base when he was coming up.
Casey Mize is the modern day Todd Van Poppel. There's kids going, man, I got 12 Casey Mize rookie cards ready to go, and they're completely useless.
Yeah, that's not bad. Let's talk to America's #1 Baltimore Oriole fan. How about now? Before we bring Jai on. Jai's like an Oriole fan, and he's a Bengals fan, but I think he hates both the teams.
You know, I don't think he finds any joy in rooting for any of the teams that he roots for.
Like, he's always angry. He hates everything about the teams. Is that true, Jai? Do you hate the Orioles, or do you love the Orioles?
I love the Orioles franchise. I hate this version of this team in 2025. Good evening, fellas. How are we doing?
Evening. Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm pissed off. I tell you, I've had a bad back for the better part of last week, so I haven't gotten
How old
any
are you?
sleep. So
You're 21, Jai. How do you have a bad back?
22. I'll be 23 in May.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just I woke up with just immense pain last Thursday, the first day of the tournament, at like 5:40, because I was on spring break last week. I was like, oh, let me get some sleep, and I just woke up with just such sharp pain, and it's been kind of nagging me and just being a pain in my ass for the last 6-7 days or so. So that has me bothered. And by the way, I've had enough of LeBron and Stephen A. both to last a lifetime. I don't give a shit about their stupid ass feud. I mean, the size of both of those guys' egos is enough to take over.
I tend to agree with you.
In the solar system, it's enough with the both of them. But getting back to your original point, yeah, the Orioles is what do you want from me? I mean, this is a team that has gone out of their way to break my heart and piss me off every single year since I've been a fan of this damn team. And unlike members of my generation, I grew up a huge baseball fan. I recall going to games with my grandparents, my dad taking me, spending my birthdays there, and I still do enjoy baseball. So my love of the game has not wavered. But it's just when it comes a point where it's like with this team specifically, when are they going to step up and take this opportunity by the horns and get serious? I mean, can my GM go out there and say the goal and the expectation? I've heard the new owner say it, but can I hear the GM go out in front of a microphone because he loves talking? He thinks he's Brad Pitt version of Billy Bean from the damn Moneyball movies. Can he go out there and say, look, damn it, our goal, our responsibility is to win a World Series by any means necessary. Not these mumbo-jumbo word salads he loves to serve up to the fan base, serving us chicken shit and thinking that he's going to pass it off as chocolate mousse and no one's going to say anything. And then this manager, Brandon Hyde, who had the balls to blow off Dog earlier this week, by the way, who should have been fired after he got outcoached and circled by Bruce Bochy in the 2023 ALDS and should have been fired last year when his team was completely disgusting down the stretch during the summer months of last season's pathetic collapse. They gift wrapped the division to the damn New York Yankees. And then when the team couldn't hit their way out of a paper bag against the damn Kansas City Royals. It's just, and then you look at our rotations, a bunch of old-ass geezers, 1 through 5. Grayson Rodriguez is out. Gunnar Henderson's not on the opening day roster. It's just the lineup's deep with talent, but I need to see the talent get a little bit of grit. Get a little bit of grit, a little bit of fight, get off their ass, not being so hell-bent on trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark every goddamn 3 at-bats. Let's get it together. Let's bunt 5 tools, pull our head out of our ass. We haven't won a damn thing since '83.
All right. Jack, come back to me. Imagine being an Oriole fan and having years of just decrepit baseball. You have one of the more young, exciting lineups in baseball. You could talk about you could talk about the rotation all you want. I don't think it's as bad as Jai is saying. I know it's not great. It's not the Seattle Mariners. But it's it's an exciting lineup, Dustin, and Jai hates this team.
Yeah, so other than everything Jai just yelled about, he did start the conversation with he doesn't hate the Orioles, he loves them. I just want to
didn't sound like
that was the vibe and the tone of his voice did not match that. Look, the rotation's dealing with some injuries. They lost a lot of guys last year. Bradish and Wells to Tommy John. Trevor Rogers got hurt, who they traded for. Grayson Rodriguez will be back. I think Grayson Rodriguez is an ace. The reality is with this rotation, though, they're solid arms, and they don't have to pitch deep into games. That's the key. This bullpen may end up being the best pen in all of baseball this year with the return of Felix Bautista. They bring in Dominguez as another right-handed arm. Cano has been awesome. Aiken's a good lefty. Like, they're pretty loaded from a bullpen perspective. Eflin and Charlie Morton, while Morton's old, Eflin's not old, they only have to pitch 5 innings. 5 innings, game's over. And we never, factor in that these young players, these potential superstars, Kowser and Rutschman and Westberg, I mean, up and down. Jackson Holliday's probably going to be better than he was, and they still have guys down in the minors ready to be called up whenever they need. I think this team is going to be the best team in the division. I have them winning the East. I think they're better than the Yankees. I think they're much better than the Red Sox, who are getting completely overhyped at this point.
What's the number? You can check it all out over at VSiN.com, of course, but what is the number in division for the Orioles?
So the Yankees are plus 160.
The Yankees should not be that short.
No, they have major issues. The lineup is not that good. Orioles are 265. The Red Sox are 3-1. The Red Sox pitching staff, there's a lot of regression candidates beginning with Tanner Houck. What he did in the first half versus the second half spoke volumes about how he was just a little bit lucky in the first half. I think he's a solid pitcher. I don't think he's an ace. And I think they made a lot of really key moves, but they are not built to withstand one or two injuries in their rotation or lineup and keep up pace. I believe the Orioles have enough help coming down the pipe in the minors. They have a couple injuries in that lineup. They'll be fine.
Yeah, no, listen, one thing that people should understand about sports betting is you're often betting brands.
Yes.
So there is perception, and then there's reality. And even Steve Torrey, who's the judge and one of the biggest Adam Shine, huge Yankee fan, understand you do bet brands, and brands get priced differently. And the Yankees at plus 160 is laughable.
Yeah, people who have the Yankees as a bet that they've already placed to win the division also have a Duke to win the national championship ticket, have Notre Dame football next year winning it all. And before the Lakers ever traded for Luka, they had the Lakers to win the NBA title.
Yeah, there's regional betting as well. Like if you're betting in Las Vegas, you're going to pay a tax on the Golden Knights. You're going to pay a tax. It's a Laker town. If you're betting in the Northeast, a number like plus 160 on the Yankees to win that division is, first off, it's not worthy of an investment, even if they were to win it.
No, I mean, you're talking 7 months from now it pays out, and you're getting plus 160. Look, it's better than the stock market these days. That's not a political comment. It's better than that because I know from my Acorn account, but it's not much better.
Acorn account.
Losing money left and right. Losing money left and right. You have no
He's
idea.
the Wolf of Wall Street all of a sudden. 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. We continue with your calls. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Dustin Swedelson. Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Yeah, if you're new to VSiN, by the way, you can get the daily newsletter. It's completely free. Bill A.D. does a great job with it. Sets you up for the betting menu for the day, vsin.com/newsletter. All you do is enter your email address, and tomorrow morning, it's going to be there when you wake up. So go check out the newsletter. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. We got Naya, we got Ryan on YouTube at VSiN Live. Stop by. The big guy's in the chat. Good stuff going on there. Let's play a couple of the Manfred clips. We're going to play two of them here. He was on with Dog earlier today, which we joke about Manfred, and we've had our issues with him in the past. But, I mean, it's good that he gives Dog some time. He should give Dog some time because the sport needs all the pub it can get. So you like to see it.
Yeah, so, I mean, this goes with our conversation that we've been having about the buzz and MLB. And Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball, was on Mad Dog Unleashed, and he says they're heading in the right direction.
We feel like we have really strong momentum coming off last year. You know, last 2 years we've been up above 70 million people in terms of attendance. We're hoping we're going to be there a third time this year. This pre-sales suggests we will. And, you know, we could be up for the third year in a row.
All right. That's good. Sounds good.
Do they have momentum from last year? I want to ask the question. Do they have momentum? Because the Dodgers dominated the regular season. The Dodgers dominated the postseason. They made it laughable. They were so much better than everyone else. And then they went out and got better. And the issue people have is, well, the Dodgers are spending more. They're deferring all these payments down the road. So they went on to discuss, Rob Manfred, commissioner of MLB, when he was on Mad Dog Unleashed, about baseball having a pay gap issue between these teams.
Do fans in these markets look at what's going on and believe their team has a realistic opportunity to win? And it's important. That perception is important to driving the business, to selling tickets, and to the overall health of the sport. And, you know, based on what we're hearing from fans and, you know, frankly, reading all over the place, we have a perception problem on that front.
Go ahead. I don't really know what he's saying.
He's basically saying that local teams, people caring, play a role in whether these teams are going to spend. It feels like he's spin zoning this, saying, well, if the fans support the teams properly, the ownership will then go out and spend money on players. And that's just not true. It's just not true. You have to give them a reason to go. They're not going to show up out of the goodness of their heart. Like, you could do anything with your time on any given day. Why would you buy a ticket to go watch the Colorado Rockies? I really don't know why you would do that. And the issue people keep wanting to bring up is the Dodgers are bad for baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers are not bad for baseball. They want to actually win at baseball. The issue with Major League Baseball is the teams like the Pirates, who have a generational talent in Paul Skeens, and instead of saying, let's capitalize on the momentum, a word that Rob used, and add pieces around him while he's cheap and we haven't had to pay him yet, they say, no, let's benefit from the fact that we don't have to pay him, and that's 1 out of 5 turns in the rotation, people are going to come to the ballpark. That's the issue with Major League Baseball, is the bottom organizations don't spend anything to make their teams competitive. They hope to catch lightning in a bottle, but they're basically treating this as an investment to buy these teams at a certain price, and down the road years later, it's a lock they're going to get ROI when they sell it eventually. But they're not in the business of winning baseball. At least the Los Angeles Dodgers, they want to win that hunk of metal that Rob called the World Series trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, the Dodger conversation is asinine, and I'll tell you why. And you'll expose yourself what type of human being you are when you're talking about the Dodgers. Because if you say, oh, the Dodgers are ruining baseball, you're soft. You're a beta. Because here's the bottom line. This is competition. And the Dodgers are saying, we have a relentless pursuit. We don't give an F what anybody thinks perception-wise. We're going to get invested. We're going to do everything it takes to win a World Series like they did last year. And there are 29 other teams that have. Now, you can say you can have your cake and say, oh, I don't like what's happening with the Dodgers.
Yep.
But you can't say it's the Dodgers' fault. That's legit. That's factually incorrect. They're doing everything by the rules.
When this run is over with the Los Angeles Dodgers, no one will remember how they did it. They'll just remember how many titles they end up winning, and they're going to win a few.
Right, but you know what I mean? Like, to say that they're doing something incorrectly is just the dumbest argument. They're literally doing everything within reason.
And any other team could do it. Any other
Of
team could
course.
defer money. Any other team could go out and sign these players. They're not even in the conversation. It's depressing. Like the
Andrew
White
Friedman
Sox,
just runs circles around everybody. That's
the problem, too. He's smarter than everyone. He gets the most out of guys as well.
Hey, Andrew, we're back on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Hit us up.
Come hang
We'd love
out.
to have you on. If you're bumping around L.A. right now, you can hear me, brother. Let's go. I just called you the smartest man in baseball.
He is.
He is. Aaron Halterman coming up next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, it's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Get ready to take over the airwaves on MLB Network Radio's Fan Day. It's a special all-day event where the fans are the stars. All day today on SiriusXM Channel 89, we're handing over the mic and giving you the chance to share your hottest takes, tell your stories, and celebrate everything you love about baseball, whether you're calling in to debate the trades, relive classic moments. You know, maybe you went with your pops to a game or shout out your favorite team. This is your day to be heard. It's Fan Day, MLB Network Radio, SiriusXM Channel 89, and on the SiriusXM app. We do welcome you back here on VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. You can find us on YouTube at VSiN Live. The big guy in the chat. A lot of good stuff coming through there. Naya producing back in New York City. Our buddy Ryan Smith in Las Vegas. And now we welcome in part of the family. It's our guy Aaron Halterman, racingdudes.com. Professional better. Racing_dudes on Twitter. You know, one of the things Dustin said he was talking to you about getting ready for the program, and he's like, we're going to talk some baseball. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm ready to go. And one of the teams you said was the Reds. And I said, Halterman is in on the Reds every single year. He loves this Reds team.
I do. It paid off so well 2 years ago, and then last year they were such a disappointment all season long. I was like, they're going to wake up, guys. Don't worry about it. They're going to wake up. Guess what? They never woke up. It was terrible.
Yeah, but Aaron, we were just early. I would just say we were early. I feel like 2 years ago we got on them late when they were trying to make a playoff push. They didn't recapture whatever it was they had in the second half 2 years ago. Last season, they also had a bunch of injuries. But it's a young team. It's a fun team. Feels like the pitching is kind of getting solidified. A lot of young bats. I think the price of them plus 650 to win the NL Central, that feels way too long to me. Am I crazy there?
I don't think you're crazy at all because the NL Central is shaky, let's call it, right? I mean, the Cardinals look like a total mess to me. The Brewers just keep letting players go. Now they survived it last year, like Corbin Burns was gone, but they still were pretty good. You know, they've lost more pieces. So I don't know. I just feel like they're going to take a step back. Do we really take the Pirates serious ever? Not really. The Cubs, 50-50 there on what they're going to be one way or the other. And then you got the Reds. And I think when you look at the Reds, what you said's correct. So many young guys and a lot of injuries. And then a lot of the younger guys just didn't hit consistently last year. You got to think another year in the big leagues. That's going to help. Pitching is still, I think, a little bit iffy, but I kind of think the Reds went out and got a manager in Terry Francona that's like, look, he probably fits this about as good as you could do for a young team that needs structure and discipline, blah, 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 what go on, but an experienced guy. And it's like, look, if he can't get it done, they're just not, we overrated him, right? I think that was a really good hire.
Go ahead.
I agree. I think when you look at Francona and the end of what was going on in Cleveland, they kept pulling pieces away. They kept losing pitchers. They kept losing bats. And he kept having to do more with less. And I just don't think he's a guy at this point in his career where he's looking to do that. There's a lot of upside here. And maybe I get a little tantalized with the younger players and the possibility of them getting better. But 1-9, this is not an easy lineup for people to pitch around. Mm-hmm. And then from a starting rotation perspective, well, let's go bullpen. I think they made this bullpen a lot better. Pagan, Rogers, they added Scott Barlow. They moved Graham Ashcraft to the bullpen. He's got a live arm. I think he's going to be electric there. But Hunter Green became an ace a year ago. Brady Singer they bring over. I'm a little nervous with the contact with him, but he only has to be like the 4 or 5 because I think Lodolo is a number 2. I think Abbott's a number 3. Nick Martinez went on a nice little run last year. I think the Reds are a really, really good team. And on your point about the Cubs, I think the Cubs are wildly overrated. Like, they made a bunch of moves, but I don't think there's anything special about the Cubs. I think there's a higher likelihood that the Cubs are trading Kyle Tucker to get prospects at the deadline more than making additions to the lineup to make a pennant push.
Yeah, they feel like there's just holes in that lineup, I would say, for the Cubs. And I'm with you on that. I kind of think they're the same as last year. And what last year was just kind of a mediocre team, right? I know, like you said, they made moves, but they also still have the holes that I'm worried about. Now, look, could they get hot? Could they go on a little run? Could they take advantage of an NL Central that I still think is down? Like I said, yes, absolutely. But, you think about the Reds. I still worry about the starting pitching. Abbott really needs to have a good third year. And if you guys know, the first year he was electric. Last year it was spotty. He didn't look like that ace that we thought we would get out of him, that guy that might win. I don't know, in this day and age, you can win 20 games, but a guy that's going to win 15 for you every year. He didn't look quite like that. He wasn't as dominant. So we need a good third year from him. As I said, as I'm talking about the Reds, but we need a good third year out of Abbott. And I think with Ashcraft, you're right. He's kind of he's got that bulldog mentality. Like, he wants to win. Like, he really, he's all about it, but he wasn't a starting pitcher. He's got to come through in some kind of role to help this team as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic. That's how I'll describe it.
Now, to be fair, we have glossed over the Milwaukee Brewers, who just seemingly always figure it out. They're always getting better. I would be nervous in this division more about the Brewers than the Cubs. We agree that the Cardinals, your Cardinals, have zero shot of doing it. But the Brewers freak me out because they just find a way to turn these like league average guys into having their like career seasons with them. Like somehow Nestor Cortez is going to go back to being the guy he was a couple years ago with them. They're going to fix Aaron Savali. And from a betting perspective, you and I were texting about why I love Corbin Carroll for NL MVP. The reality is it's Ohtani's award with the way he's going to pitch again and the way he's Babe Ruth. But if you're going to try and fade Ohtani, potentially because there's fatigue on voting for him, or maybe he gets hurt and misses some time, outside of Corbin Carroll, the other guy I'm looking at for the NL MVP is in this division in the Central. I think Jackson Chourio at around 40-45 to 1. He could potentially go 30-30, score 100, drive in 100, and if the Brewers somehow do win this division with the pieces they continuously lose, I think he has a very strong case to be an MVP candidate. What do you make of the Brewers?
Yeah, I'm with you, and they are really incredible because it's like they don't pay their players past like their their entry deals basically, and it's like, oh, if we got to pay him a whole lot, let's just get rid of him. But like you look up and you're like, oh, where did this guy come from? And now he's they plug somebody in and all of a sudden it's just fine and like nothing ever happened and nothing went wrong. And you're right, Chourio's a really, really, really good player. Contreras, really good. I mean, they've got really good players still there, but again, it's just like. I think a lot of it, too, is this division just hasn't been that good as well, and they've just been the steady hand. And they're such a good regular season team as well, right? I mean, we haven't seen success in the playoffs, but regular season day in and day out, they just beat the teams they should beat, and that's a big key. If you bet them last year, I think the market, especially early in the year, the market on the Brewers, you were getting good prices for like the first 2 months of the season because I think everybody kind of thought how we were thinking. It's like you can't just lose pieces and just be the same team, and they have been. So they should be the favorites. But again, I don't look at the Brewers and be like, oh, I'm terrified of them, right? Like I feel like somebody should step up and at least challenge them. We shouldn't get to August and this thing is over, right? There should be a race here. But again, I think the Brewers should be the favorite. They're the team to knock off. And I'm sure we'll look up in August and they're going to be ahead and somebody's going to have to come get them.
Well, so speaking of betting brands, the Cubs are short in that division. They're
So
plus 135.
Short. Yeah.
That's an insane number.
No
They're
way.
not that good. So much of their season is dependent on Justin Steele being the guy he was 2 years ago. And the problem is, I really like Justin Steele, but he is a contact pitcher playing in Chicago where they have day games and the wind could be blowing out and ruin his whole season. Imanaga was very good. I think Imanaga is for real as a rookie, but you're relying on Jamison Taillon, who's been awful for a while. Matthew Boyd, who was like out of baseball for a little bit. I don't think the lineup has enough reliable pop to hang with some of the other big boys, and the pitching just isn't good enough. The Cubs being the price they are, plus 135 you said, to win the division?
Yeah.
That's an insane number. I think the Brewers and the Reds have such a higher upside than the Cubs.
Yeah, that plus 135 is hilarious. Right now, the Brewers are plus 260. The Reds are 5.5 to 1. That's the play if you're going to play anything.
It's the upside play. It's a huge number.
Halterman's Reds. Do you know anybody in Cincinnati? Have you been to Cincinnati? Is this like, what is the thing?
I know nobody in Cincinnati. I will tell you, 2 years ago, I was coming home from New York, coming home from Saratoga, obviously, and then we went down through Cincinnati and caught a game. Because I'm like, listen, I bet this team like every night. I should actually go see, where do they play? What is this like? And it was underwhelming. I would say that there's not much.
Hold on, it's called Great American Ballpark. Are you saying it's false advertising?
Yes, absolutely. It's false advertising. Look, it's an older ballpark. Now what I'll tell you is there was about probably 5,000 to 8,000 people in the stands. By the way, they're in the wild card chase at this time. And it's like, come on, it's a Tuesday night, but still, but they were into, like, the fans that were there were way into it, but there just wasn't a lot of people there. And the ballpark, it needs a paint job at the least. Like it's like white, but the paint is like chipping off the place. So it's got character, but it's not the nicest ballpark I've ever been to. Let's put it that way.
It's a bandbox.
Oh yeah, the ball flies out. That's why it's always, that would be the hesitancy if you weren't going to back them. It's just so hard to have reliable pitching there because pop flies end up going out into the gaps. Looks like a double off the bat. Next thing you know, it's in the first, second row of the stands. I'm trying to look when that stadium was built because you're right. At this point,
it's old, but what's not as old as you think. I think it's
I remember it opening.
Maybe 25 years old.
Really? Wow.
Trying to pull it
Looks
up.
older.
It's newer. It's a little bit newer than you think, but I mean, I could be completely off.
First game was 2003. 2003 was the first year. So it's
No
22 years
way.
So yeah, 23. I said 25, 23 years old. It's newer than you think, but in
crazy.
modern day, it does not play on TV. And Halterman went to it and said it's kind of a dump.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, it's built at a cool spot. It's built right on the river, so it's neat. Like, like the setting and like the view of the outfield is great. But if they built it 23 years ago, they painted it 23 years ago, and they've never painted it again. That's what I would say.
It's the 11th newest. It's 11th newest. It was built right after PNC in Pittsburgh, right before Petco in San Diego, which that's ironic because you're saying the stadium stinks. The other two that it's sandwiched around
The nicest
are considered the two best ballparks in baseball.
Yeah,
That's
if you're
amazing.
if you're gonna build a park on a river, Pittsburgh already did it better.
Oh. I mean, I've never been, and I can already tell you that is the best ballpark in baseball. Everything about it looks perfect. All right, how about that, Aaron? What's your favorite ballpark you've actually been to then?
Oh, man. Well, come on, guys. Busch Stadium is unbelievable. So I got to say that. And listen, it's not a homer pick because if you've been to Busch Stadium,
New or old?
Well, I would say new. Old, I didn't love, to be quite honest, but the new one is amazing. It opens up to the arch in the city. It's got like the old school brick on it, the red. It's beautiful. Now, I will say, because a lot of people are like, yeah, he's a St. Louis guy. Who cares? Here's one you got to go to Seattle. Go watch a game in Seattle. That thing is awesome. It's all kinds of awesome. We went up there. My boy John White went into the Washington Racing Hall of Fame, and so we went up to see him get inducted, and then we went to a Seattle Mariners game. I'm telling you, that's an amazing ballpark. It is beautiful. The weather's always perfect there as well. Yeah, that's one I would highly recommend.
Yeah, easily. Mine easily is Dodger Stadium. There's to me, with the mountains in the background, the golden hour, Dodger Stadium is by far and away my favorite. However, the sleeper is Petco. Problem with San Diego is it's not a sports town. It's a small town. And so they've never won anything in any sport, literally. So nobody thinks of San Diego. That park is effing lit.
You went recently. It was like 2019-ish.
A few years back. It's insane.
You came back and you couldn't stop raving to the point where I'm already looking at the Mets schedule right now. I plan on going there when the Mets go to San Diego. I have to check this stadium out. So they're in San Diego in July.
Every detail is perfect. The attention to detail at that stadium, and the food and the beer, and it's right downtown, Gaslight District. It's everything about it is perfect.
You know my rule. I can't like Philadelphia, even though I've never been, but it's one of 3 arenas, stadiums in a parking lot. Like, that does nothing for me.
No.
I need a stadium. Baseball is meant to be played in big cities or just cities and built into a city, built into the buildings and the community. So my number one, and I haven't been to that many, but it remains Camden Yards in Baltimore. I think it still has that new/old school feel. It has both vibes. It's built into the inner harbor. There's an area around it that's cool to hang out with and go to bars and restaurants. I just love how it's built right into the city of Baltimore. That's still my number one.
Camden's great. You can't go wrong with Camden. It does feel modern, but it's super old at this point.
Yeah, it's like 90. Was it 93? Hold on, I have the list up here. Let's see when it was. I want to say it was 90-something, 92.
It's early 90s. Yeah,
Wow.
92 for Camden.
Ripken was playing in it. Like Cal Ripken played there, so that was a long time ago, right?
The irony is they built left field originally for Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
Then a few years ago had to move it back because everyone was taking their pitcher's yard. And now this year they're moving left field back in because it's killing the numbers on their young hitters this year. But I know you're like me, Aaron. I know you like the Orioles on opening day, but more importantly, I like this team season long. How do you view the AL East going this year? Because like the Cubs, the New York Yankees, crazy price atop the division, plus 160. Orioles plus 265. And then it feels like everyone's hyping up the Red Sox, but I'm not sure they're as good as the Orioles. What do you make of the AL East?
Man, that's a tough one because with the Yankees and the injury problems they already have had, I mean, losing Cole's not good at all. I don't want to back them at a short price. If we look up at the end of the year and they've won the division, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm with you. I would back the Orioles. I would pause, though, a little bit and say, boy, they were bad the second half of the season. But I do feel like it was injuries and just kind of slumps from everybody felt like they stopped hitting for the Orioles. That's not them. I would bet the Orioles in this spot. Listen, you may think Boston's getting hyped. I do think they're going to be better. And the weird thing about the Red Sox, and by the way, my wife is screaming at me saying, you went to Fenway Park. Why didn't you say that? It was great. But anyway, I'd forgotten. But anyway,
Halterman with an
I know.
appearance.
Public apology. But with Boston, the weird thing about it, talk about Fenway Park, the last 2 years, guys, they haven't won in that ballpark. They have been bad at home. And if they can, and I don't know why that would be. To me, it's probably just bad luck or whatever. But if they can just play better at home in historic Fenway Park, they've been good enough on the road. And I think they're better. I think overall this is a better team. I'm not sure they're a division-winning team, but can they make the wild card? I think absolutely. I think they are a much better team. You can't really take Tampa serious with all the unfortunate things that's happened with them. Their team is not as good last year. I don't think they're good anyway under normal circumstances. And then losing the stadium and having, to basically play in the Yankees, spring training facility, that's got to be a mess. So I think you got to look at Boston or Baltimore if you're going to bet it, because I don't want to lay a short price on the Yankees.
I mean, if you're speaking of, we're talking Aaron Halterman. His wife just chimed in with Fenway. The only conversation, if you're talking about Fenway, is do you prefer Fenway or do you prefer Wrigley? Have you both been to both?
I've been to neither.
What
the
I mean,
vibe,
that is a debacle, big guy.
Well, I have not spent a lot of time in the Midwest, and I was supposed to go to Fenway the first time the Mets were playing the Red Sox up there, but I flunked out of college and had to go to summer school to stay in for the next semester and make up a bunch of credits. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go. And if we're being fair right now, not 100% sure I'm able to fit in the seats that were built in like the 1900s.
Well, I mean, that is a different conversation. But as a guy, his favorite sport is baseball.
I know.
You haven't been to the two historic parks
It's tough.
on the planet. That it to your criteria, built into the city, legitimately both are built right into the city.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no, hand up. I grew up going to Yankee Stadium, the original, and the irony is, of like the old historic stadiums, it was by far the worst one. It had no charm. Everyone overrated Yankee Stadium for having like charm. It was a basic blue backdrop. They had a bunch of plaques in the outfield for all the old players, like the legends. They're like, yeah, there's so much history in this ballpark. That ballpark was freaking horrendous. But if I was going to choose Fenway or Chicago, Wrigley feels more my vibe. Wrigley, I love the ivy growing on the bricks. Yeah. I love the uniqueness of it. I like what's the M? Is that what the train is called in Chicago that goes over it? Like, I don't know. The vibe there just seems way better than I've driven past Fenway. It's like, whatever.
The big guy's breaking down parks he's never been to. That is a skill.
So I've been to both. Can I break it down? I've been to both.
Go ahead.
Yes.
So here's the deal. I did go to Fenway's. I would choose Fenway. Here's why. I was at Wrigley, but it was for a hockey game. It was the Winter Classic. We went to. So now, as far as enjoyment, it was great because I'm a Blues fan. And they won 6-2, and it was great. But I don't know that I can fully judge Fenway because I haven't seen it like its natural habitat. Right? Or not Fenway. I'm talking about Wrigley because I haven't seen it in natural habitat. Like I haven't seen a baseball game there. But yeah, Fenway is amazing. But I think Wrigley, in a weird way, I do agree with the big guy here. It does kind of have a vibe around it. Like it's got like the houses that are right at the like a home run could hit the street and hit a house. Like it is literally in a community. It's really crazy. So I could see the appeal. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're both. I've been to both Fenway and Wrigley. They're both amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer, because I can't say I don't like Boston, so I'd prefer say Wrigley.
Well,
but I have to say Fenway.
There's also an aspect that's unfair to judge the stadium by, but like roads in the city of Boston are very confusing. They just kind of end and flow into each other, and there's no rhyme or reason. There's no block. Like it's a very confusing city, and you see that kind of with Fenway, with the way like certain streets just kind of roll into it. You don't know that about Boston?
dude, you should have sat that one out, dude. You haven't been. Now you're talking about roads? Look at Halterman's even laughing at your punk
It's
ass.
part of the build. I'm talking about the city
dude.
vibe.
Honestly, that's the weirdest thing you've ever said on the pro. Now, why are you mad at me for saying the dumbest thing ever?
It's not.
We're talking about a baseball park, and you're talking about the roads outside of it.
Because the city, my whole point, this entire conversation has been the surrounding city area to it, and Boston is a confusing city to navigate because the streets.
You got to go to your therapist. How could you be mad at me? I didn't do anything. You brought up the dog like that is ridiculous.
No, it's part of your problem because half the
have
time
you been to Fenway, around Fenway?
Yes,
it's fun as you can possibly have.
Yes,
I'm just talking about Boston as a city in general. I blame you because all you do is tell me stop thinking, just say what comes out of your mouth, and that's what came out of my mouth there.
Think more. No, honestly, you would love love the surrounding area.
I'm in the.
We're the same. I hate Boston.
I'm in the YouTube chat. Tomcat says I'm accurate about the roads. They don't like numbering the streets.
No.
Like
I'm not saying topography-wise you're wrong about Boston. I'm just saying it has nothing to do with a baseball park.
No, not a thing.
Like, we can have a public planning discussion if you'd like.
All I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. I'm backing out of the conversation. Homer Simpson
listen,
into the bushes.
I'll save you. Both our parks stink. Now, your park is good. It's in the worst possible place ever, next to Chop Shops.
Well, I mean, if you need a muffler, it's not in the worst place possible. If you need a catalytic converter, go to City Field.
Speaking of roads, Comerica's fine. Comerica's better than fine. It's just not great. Neither of you have been to the Tiger Stadium.
No, but I think Comerica looks cool. The problem is for you, I imagine, is comparing it to old Tiger Stadium, which was one of the coolest, most unique-looking stadiums in baseball. The overhang, the poles throughout the outfield. Like, it was a cool-looking place, and Comerica's modern. It's nice, but it doesn't have that same charm.
You just said it. Tiger Stadium was insane. In fact, I have a framed picture of it out in my main room. It was a beautiful park. Comerica's fine. It's better than fine, but it's not great. So, anyway, a fun baseball discussion and a fun public planning discussion. Now, let's get back to the bets. Tomorrow, you do have your Reds hosting the Giants. I think it's pretty much 110 up and down. Am I correct there?
Yeah, it's been fluctuating a little bit. I saw 105 at one point, back to 110 now. Yeah, look, it Dustin touched on it. Hunter Green became kind of that rock for the Reds during a poor season. Now you got to beat Logan Webb. That is a problem for the Giants. But I think the Reds, like you said, I think that lineup 1 through 9 is going to be awfully tough. I expect De La Cruz to hit a little bit better this year. His third season, the plate discipline is kind of coming along. But he's not the only one. I mean, they've got a really good lineup. And I just kind of like to back them here at home against the Giants. I'm not a big believer in the Giants this year. Webb will be tough to beat. I will definitely say that. But like I said, it's ace on ace most of these games. So it's not like Green's going to come out and give up 5 in the first inning, hopefully. He should pitch well as well. So I think the Reds get the job done. I think the price is right. I think they should be favored in this one, and they're not. So I'm going to take them.
Yeah, and Webb doesn't miss as many bats as he used to. He's good. He's really bad on the road. That's a bad ballpark for a bad road pitcher who's allowing a little bit more contact. I like that play. I feel like that is a short price when it comes to the Reds and Hunter Green, where he clearly is the better of the two pitchers to me. Even I know Webb's awesome. I know everyone loves Logan Webb. Everyone bets him for Cy Young every year, and every year he doesn't win it. So the other game that you're looking at, in division, AL East, look, I rode this wild ride that is the Toronto Blue Jays the last 2 years, Aaron. I'm off it. Like, the talent should be so much better than what they've been, but I can't ever back this team again.
F that team.
It's the Orioles and Eflin in Toronto taking on Barrios. Again, Barrios, a guy who had a really good year last year, but historically better at home versus the road. He's at home in this one, and you can get minus 112 on the Orioles, minus 108 on the Blue Jays. Totals 8.5. How are we playing it?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Orioles in this one. And again, with baseball, you do kind of look at it and the same kind of thing with the Reds. It's like, look, I think the Orioles, they are a very, very slight favorite, as you just laid out. I think they should be more like minus 130. Eflin is a guy, you know what you're going to get out of him every time he goes out there. He's not unbelievable, but he is solid. And I think he can go, it doesn't matter if he's home, road, wherever, he's going to go out and pitch well. So I've got faith in Eflin. And like I said, I just think the Orioles, they started really, really hot last year with the bats for about 3 months, and then they cooled off. It's not like this team doesn't know how to hit. They have good hitters 1 through 9 as well. I think they'll be ready, refreshed. You know, they had a lot of young guys on that team. And I think in baseball, especially with hitting, just the experience and having those years under your belt as you rack them up, I really think it makes a big difference. They had a lot of guys that were second and third year guys last year. That extra year, I think, will help. So, again, I just think minus 112. It's a little bit too short. I think they should be about minus 130. So I'm going to take the Orioles. I believe in Eflin. I think he's a guy that's going to go out there once every 5 nights and be able to kind of solidify a rotation that still could be a little bit shaky. We'll kind of have to see how some guys come back from injury.
So I have a legitimate question. Am I drunk? Who's your opening day starter for the Mets?
Clay Holmes, the former closer for the Yankees.
All right.
What?
I'm out. Dude, sorry, I'm out.
So he signed a 3-year deal with the Mets, and the deal was he wanted to be a starter again because that's what he was with the Pirates originally. He also saw Michael King, who was the former setup guy for the Yankees, go to the Padres a year ago, and he was awesome. Holmes said, I want to be a starter. The Mets gave him the deal and said, if it doesn't work out in spring training, they'll move him to the bullpen and he'll be a setup guy. He had a really good spring if you care about that. I don't. I think eventually he becomes a setup guy. The problem is the Mets have injuries to Frankie Montas right now. Sean Manaea, who they brought back, who was awesome last year in the playoff run, he's injured with an oblique. So at least to start the season, Clay Holmes is on the bump as a starter. I would have given Kodai Senga the start opening day. But look, they're at the Astros, and I think the Astros are overrated. I might end up taking the Mets at plus 114. Mets are great on opening day.
By the way, we're all sleeping on the best matchup on opening day, and that is Detroit at the Dodgers, Skubal, Blake Snell. That is 2 lefties, Snell, Skubal. Let's go, boys. Obviously, Skubal's better.
Pretty good.
It's probably about the only game you're looking at with the Dodgers where you're going, yeah, I think I'm going to bet the under.
Exactly.
Outside of Skubal,
6.5.
the Dodgers, there's no other matchup where you're like, yeah, I'm going under with the Dodgers involved in this one.
How many times are the Dodgers, is the total going to be set at 6.5 this year?
But not very often.
Not
but
many.
By the way, plus 142 on Skubal, the better pitcher.
Yeah, thank you.
That feels like a value play to me.
Yes, sir. Let's do your 2 Sweet 16 match. We've thought about the road, so we're running out of time here. I forgot. I just looked up. It's 5:30.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, that's what happens when you get Halterman. In Heather Halterman in the mix too.
Yep.
Arkansas catching 5.5. That is, you're backing Calipari, which is ballsy against Texas Tech here.
Well, why do you think it's ballsy, Patrick? I think it's a pretty good play. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I just think
Coach Pitino.
Listen, I think he's done a hell of a job. I think he has. Again, this is a team in Arkansas that has 7 guys that are legitimate players, and he's got them to the Sweet 16. They started 0-5 at the SEC. Everybody said, he's totally had it. He's done. And here they are. Now, look, I think Texas Tech is a tough team. They can score a little bit more than they have in the past, and that will help. But this is an old Southwest Conference. I'm going to date myself, but I remember the old Southwest Conference when Arkansas and Texas Tech played. This is an old rivalry, guys. I think this will be a slugfest. I don't know if Arkansas wins. I think it's a 2-3 point game. I think it'll be like a 65-63 type of game. But, look, I'm taking the points with Arkansas. It's been good so far. I'll ride them one more time.
Yeah, look, I want to ride with you on that one because I think there's something interesting happening with the Razorbacks hitting their stride at the right time. But at the same time, Halterman, I believe you're the one who told me about Texas Tech months ago about backing the Red Raiders.
I know, and hey, they could still win. We could win with the Red Raiders and keep that future hope alive, right? But still cash this bet. I want the best of both worlds here.
Okay, how about the other game? The other game you have where Michigan State's laying 3.5 against Ole Miss. Chris Beard versus Izzo is a great coaching matchup. Total's 143.5. What are we doing with Sparty and the Rebs?
Yeah, talk about another slugfest this might turn into with these two kind of old school coaches here. But I took Michigan State minus the 3.5. I don't think Michigan State played all that well in the first 2 rounds, especially the second round. I don't think they played well at all. So to me, it's like they're kind of just one of those teams that the further they go, the harder they are to beat. I do not disrespect Ole Miss. I've watched them a lot. I don't think they can match up with Michigan State. I think Michigan State is just a better team. I think Ole Miss is one on guts. They've kind of got a good second round matchup as well. A banged up Iowa State team that just was not very good down the stretch because of the injuries. I just think when push comes to shove, Michigan State's going to be able to get the job done. So it'll be a slugfest. I expect another low-scoring game, but I think Michigan State minus 3.5. It's my best of the 2 plays. I do like this one the best. I think they're going to start hitting their stride. I think they'll be awfully tough to beat in this round and the next.
Let's get one more in, and then you can find the rest of Aaron's picks over at VSiN.com/picks. Maybe Buck and a Trent. Like, people love Duke. You're going to take Arizona catching the 9.5.
Am I doing that? I don't know that I'm doing that. Am I?
No, that is.
Oh, wait, that's Spreitzer.
That's
I'm sorry. That's Spreitzer. What do you think about Scott Spreitzer's play?
So he's taking Duke. It's probably right. that line's probably right. I would probably side with Duke if you made me take that. But I didn't want to lay 9.5. I looked at that game, but I didn't want to lay 9.5.
That's my bad. I apologize. Halterman, great stuff. You and I are going to be hosting. We're going to be doing the Road to the Kentucky Derby, 11:15 my time on YouTube, VSiN Live YouTube, which is your and Samich's show. Samich is out of the country for a week, so I'll jump in with you. I'll learn something about the Road to the Kentucky Derby. What do we have on tap for that show?
Oh, you've picked the best week. It's going to be freaking awesome. We got the Florida Derby with a horse named Sovereignty that's going to run there. He's one of the big time favorites for the Kentucky Derby. I expect him to run huge. Tune into the show for more there. And then in the Arkansas Derby, which I will be at this year live and in person, we got a horse named Cornucopian trained by Bob Baffert. He's the 7-5 favorite. Patrick, he has one race. He's only raced one time. He ran the fastest 6 furlongs for a 3-year-old maiden special weight in the history of Oaklawn Park. And that thing's been around a long time. So can he win the Arkansas Derby in his second start? That's the big question.
Cornucopia, who's the mom and dad?
Let's see. That is a good question. He's a half to Gamine, a sprinter. I know that. I think he's into mischief. He's into mischief, which is questionable on top. Yeah.
That's crazy speed.
Mm-hmm.
Halterman, thank you. RacingDudes.com. VSiN analyst, of course, at racing_dudes on Twitter. I'll see you Friday. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
All right. There goes
Be careful
Halterman.
when driving in Boston, Aaron. Remember, be careful. The road's
okay. I will.
Yeah. That's a good warning. Make sure you use Google Maps, I would say, for sure. Well, let's stick with the baseball thing when we come back. Do we just have one division left, the NL East?
We have the National League East. I think it's going to be fun, and I've got a core 4 bets that I really jumped out to me when I analyzed this league.
All right, that's coming up. We'll get to the core 4 with the big guy in the NL East, which is his league with his Metsies. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets in third place. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Sweat your bets with VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, VSiN's 24/7 sports betting coverage is on SiriusXM Channel 158 and on the SiriusXM app. And right now, VSiN is offering new subscribers an exclusive deal. Get your first 30 days of VSiN Pro access for $158. That includes everything. Everything we offer for $158. Go to VSIN.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SIRIUS. It's a good time to get in today because tomorrow is going to be packed. So let VSiN and the experts over there do the work for you when it comes to the sports betting. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. We got Ryan Smith in Vegas. We've got Nia Hardman. And Nia did agree with the big guy about the streets. And listen, I agree with Dustin. It can be a challenge to drive around Boston. I totally agree. Let's just be very clear that I was talking about the baseball park. That's all.
Yeah, look, it's like when as a kid I used to get in trouble for clipping my fingernails and toenails at the dinner table. It was a time and place thing, not a factually right or wrong thing. Your issue with me bringing it up.
But see, that's why I do tell you not to think, because it ended up being explosive radio.
Yeah, no. And then even when I know you're triggering me and poking me, I can't help but get angry at you. So credit to you.
But what people that don't see it on VSiN Live, and that's why we encourage you to go log on to YouTube and check out VSiN Live, because he gets so mad. You can see it genuinely upsets him when people disagree. Like when I was just like, that's idiotic. He just gets so mad.
Yeah, no, it's real. Like I wish I could fake it, but I can't. I just lose my mind. And I usually lose it over things that don't matter like that. Like that is something that doesn't matter. It should not bother me. It drives me insane. If you were like, hey, man, look, I noticed you gained some weight. You should probably hit the gym sometime. I'd be like, okay, cool, probably right. But you want to get annoyed at me?
Yeah, I was just all I said, weird take on roads in Boston. And it's just like, I mean, I don't even think Nia was here. I did just go through a list of reasons it's great to be Dustin Swedelson the other night.
You did. How well I know the geography of the city of Boston was not part of the list. Maybe we'll add it to it now.
Oh, it's going to be on the list right next to the fact that you own your own Kia.
Look, that Kia Optima, we've been through a lot. I've actually put that car through a lot more than I've ever put any woman. I mean, the physical damage that's been done to that car.
That's a good transition into our core four with the NL East. And what we do with the big guy here is we start at the bottom of the division and work our way up to who you should be betting in first place. Who's at the bottom of the East?
Well, as per usual, the Miami Marlins are 250-1 to win the division. Just think about that number, 250-1. Their win total is 68.5. In the offseason, they only lost their best pitcher, Jesus Luzardo, and their best power bat in Jake Berger. This is bad. This is bad by even Miami Marlins standards. Remember, they traded Jazz Chisholm a year ago. They also traded Brian De La Cruz, Luis Ariz, Josh Bell. And it feels like a Sandy Alcantara trade, once he proves he's healthy, is inevitable. So then it's what are we even doing here? I mean, they have a couple fun players worth monitoring, but there's no reason to actually turn on a Miami Marlins broadcast. I just feel like we've reached a point with the Miami Marlins and the Tampa Bay Rays, for that matter, with their stadium issues. Can we just get rid of pro baseball in the state of Florida and go to a city that deserves them? Because this ownership group does not deserve to own a professional baseball team. Every year, the Marlins stink.
It is true. Baseball in Florida just hasn't worked,
which
is odd because, spring training historically has been in Florida and it does well.
I don't know what it is. It's just from a day in, day out standpoint, people are not going to the games. They're just not going to show up. And also, Florida's probably in the top 2 or 3 states with major leaguers playing in the pros.
Correct.
So you'd think that they're passionate about the sport. Look, there's so many obvious cities that make so much more sense. The Miami Marlins need to be sold, and they need to be moved somewhere else.
But let's be honest. Miami is a garbage sports town.
It's horrible. Well, I mean, people are a little distracted, though. There's a lot more going on in Miami than sports.
Yeah, there is. Okay, who's up next after the Marlins?
You were on this team a year ago, and that's the Washington Nationals. They're 65-1 to win the division. Their win total 72.5. By the way, I'll just say it right now. I think they may go over that 72.5. The way they've rebuilt this team is how you're supposed to do it. You trade your top players, you get prospects, you get as many as you can, and you hope a few of them hit. And there's like a lot of really good potential when it comes to young guys. Only 2 position players on the roster are going to be over the age of 30 years old. A lot of it begins with James Wood and C.J. Abrams. Abrams is a stud when he's not late night at the casino playing craps and getting suspended for it. James Wood and Dylan Cruz in the outfield could be 2 of the best outfielders in baseball down the road. And I think they brought in a nice core of like vets to make this team competitive. So they lost Patrick Corbin. That's a net positive. They added Nathaniel Lau, Mike Soroka, Josh Bell, Paul DeYoung, Ahmed Rosario, Jorge Lopez, Lucas Sims, some reliever from Japan. There's a lot of veteran guys.
They're good.
They can bring these young kids along. I think the Nats are going to be punchy, and they go over 72.5 wins.
Dude, Mike Rizzo is really good at his job.
Well, how often do you see a GM actually be allowed to keep his job and completely rebuild an organization after winning a World Series?
Think about the names that they've lost. Trey
God.
Turner, Bryce Harper,
Soto,
the donk to
Scherzer,
the donk to the Angels at his peak.
Rendon. The Rendon deal to the Angels looked like a superstar signing, and the Nats were like, we're not playing this game. We'd rather rebuild than pay all these guys money that they don't deserve.
All right, so we got the Marlins and the Nats out of the way. When we come back, we'll round out the NL East and get Dustin's Core 4. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
And Dustin Swedelson. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, so Dustin just brought up a theory about LeBron and Stephen A. Smith that I haven't heard, and maybe we can get to that in the third hour because we're breaking down the NL East right now, but that was the first I'd heard of it. I gotta be honest, I don't hate it. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that coming up in just a bit. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. The big guy's running through his core four as far as the NL East, so I'll let you get back to it. Marlins and Nats are out of the way.
Yeah, so this next team's going to be third place, but the reality is if absolutely every little detail goes their way and all the players they add and the potential to bring in more at the deadline plays a role, the New York Mets can win this division, but at plus 240, I don't think they do. There's a lot wrong with the Mets this year that has me concerned from a pitching perspective. Their win total's 90.5. They'll challenge to go over that because I do think the lineup is good enough. I mean, I haven't seen a lineup from the Mets 1-5 this strong since 2006 when they lost in the NLCS to the St. Louis Cardinals. But the pitching, already injuries to Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas. And I'm not a big Frankie Montas guy. These organizations keep taking chances on the guy who's not that good. But the pitching, they believe that they can develop and get the most out of the guys because they did it with Luis Severino and Jose Quintana and these other bums the last few years. But the New York Mets are going to rely on bats. And the Juan Soto addition, the one thing it does is I think it allows for Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor to play freer. So I expect big numbers out of both those guys atop the lineup. So while the Mets possess that great lineup, the pitching's going to hold them back. I don't think they win the division. They will be a wild card team, though.
The fact that they have Soto, it's you know what it is? It's even the year they went to the World Series, it's like things did go right for them. So it is a team that could pop. I totally agree with you.
And one thing one thing I'd give them credit for, they're letting the kids play. Brett Beatty's going to fill in at second base with Acuna, Luis Angel Acuna, while Jeff McNeil's out, and I think they end up keeping the job. They're going to let Ronnie Mauricio potentially play down the road as well. I like the idea of letting the homegrown kids figure out what they are before you go out and add some guy from outside the organization. So I believe in the plan. I believe in David Stearns. I just think that they acknowledged a year ago that this is a long-term plan, not a quick fix, and I respect the way they're doing it.
All right, who's next?
Second place in this division for me, it's the favorite. It's the Atlanta Braves. Win total is 93.5, plus 110 in division and plus 750 in the World Series. It's not that I don't think this team is awesome. I just think with the amount of injuries they faced last year, with the players they lost, and then the guys that they're relying on this year that have a bit of a checkered past, I have concerns about them reaching their full potential. I still think they make the playoffs, but I don't think they're as good as the Phillies. They lost Max Fried. They lost Soler. They lost Darno, Charlie Morton, A.J. Minter, a bunch of bench guys. They replaced them with solid, okay pieces in Jurickson Profar, Brian De La Cruz, Alex Verdugo. But this is a team that has their best player in Acuna coming off an injury. They have Spencer Strider coming off an injury, their best pitcher. Albies did come back off an injury last year, but only hit from the right side of the plate. Austin Riley injured his hand, just got hit again in spring training. Michael Harris was hurt for a time last year. The lineup is elite, but it's also a group of guys that not just coming off all of the injuries, they had all had career years in 2023. So I think the expectations are a little bit unfair of what this lineup really can be. And the rotation has a ton of questions. Chris Sale won the Cy Young. He threw 177 innings last year. That was the most since 2017. Ronaldo Lopez is slotted in as the number 3. He was previously a reliever. He threw 135 innings. That was his most since 2019. I don't know what you can get out of those guys. So because I have so many questions about the Braves from an injury perspective in the past and projecting forward, I can't pick them to win this division over the Philadelphia Phillies.
I'm right there with, they have two of my favorite players in baseball. Do you know what it is? This team has bad juju.
Bad energy. It's like a voodoo doll. It's like poking all the players right now.
I totally agree. So the Phillies.
Philadelphia Phillies are going to win the NL East, people. I don't know what we're doing.
Agree.
I had them last year plus 285. You can still get 215 over at DraftKings. The win total is 91.5. And I will be betting them to win the World Series at 12-1. 12-1 is way too long for the pedigree. Ever since Rob Thompson took over for that donk Joe Girardi, All this team does is go to the playoffs and make runs. They added Jesus Luzardo. They added Jordan Romano. I think Max Kepler is a very solid addition to this lineup. They lost a couple pieces in the bullpen, but mostly guys that they added late. No one insane. But the rotation's elite. Zach Wheeler's made at least 26 starts the last 4 years. Aaron Nola is super reliable. You pencil in Luzardo as the 3. He was bad in Miami, but I can't really put that all on him. Ranger Suarez will be hurt to start the year, but he had a career year a year ago. Christopher Sanchez has electric stuff. He's like 35-1 for NL Cy Young. He could be in the mix, but the lineup is just so trustworthy and so deep. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Baum, Kepler, Real Muto. Castellanos is batting 7th. I mean, the bullpen isn't great, but it's not bad either. Romano and Banks and Strahm, it's not horrible. It's not going to hold them back. I just trust the Philadelphia Phillies to win in the regular season. That's why I'm betting them to win the division.
I think it's – if the Dodgers didn't exist, that's the World Series team right there.
It just feels like this group of players is going to break through at some point. The problem for them is not being hot at the right time, and I think they will be this year.
We should, you know what? We'll save your core 4
Yeah.
for after. We're going to talk to Scott, but we should. Scott is a huge baseball guy. I want to ask him what he thinks about the Dodger thing. Again, I think anybody bitching about the Dodgers is factually incorrect. You can say you don't like what the Dodgers did, but you can't say that they're ruining baseball because they care more and they're more competitive. That's just odd. 29 baseball teams had an opportunity. They just their butts got tight.
Their wallets got tight. Because you and I went through it during the pandemic. Every one of these owners has bought a professional baseball team, and the value every year has gone up substantially. It is the greatest investment you could ever make if you have the money. Buy a baseball team because there's a 0% chance you'll lose money on the deal down the road.
You share rev. Like, you can't lose money. It's unbelievable. Now, the question is, will he or won't he be wearing a Ralph Lauren shirt? Ooh. That is professional handicapper Scott Spreitzer, who joins us next here. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
2.5 minutes.
covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Jump the gun. Got the newsletter for free over at vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game with your betting menu, your sports menu. Be a good time to sign up tonight because tomorrow's going to be a busy day. The newsletter is going to be busy. Also, let you know, 10 Eastern, so an hour away. NHL is on SiriusXM. Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers play host to the Dallas Stars. It's a good game. At 10 Eastern, tune in to SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, Channel 91, in the car or on the SiriusXM app as we welcome you back here at VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. Of course, Nia Hardman back in New York City. Ryan Smith doing a great job with the YouTube at VSiN Live. Again, we're trying to get caught up in the algorithm, so if you're over there, do us a favor, subscribe, hit us with the thumbs up. We want to spread the word on the show on YouTube. We're also Rumble, Twitch, Kick. We're all over the place, people. Scott Spreitzer joins us, as he has been for more than a decade. DocSports.com, DocSports.com, professional handicapper there in Vegas, at Scott Wins with 2 T's on Twitter. And as we say hi to Scott, we were saying this is like the calm before the storm today because tomorrow we've got a full plate, don't we?
All those beautiful baseball games to kick things off right in the middle of Sweet 16 action. So you got to like it. I'm pumped. I've only got one baseball play for tomorrow. I'm trying not to hurt anybody or myself, guys. I usually, start out because I love baseball so much and think I've got an edge. Day 1, day 2, day 3, I'll start out like maybe 2-4. So this year, that's not going to happen. We're going 0-1 on Thursday at the worst, but I think we're going 1-0. And we're going to talk about that game. And oh, by the way, I heard you talking about Ralph Lauren. Of course. I've got enough Ralph Lauren in my closet to where I could probably buy 4 brand new 1980 Yugos. I mean, so
if you were wondering, is Scott wearing a very fresh looking Ralph Lauren polo? The answer is absolutely freaking yes. That's 100%.
As always.
Yeah. Yeah. But then also, the Sweet 16 tomorrow, we're starting to wind down NHL and obviously the NBA. Dustin and I opened the program talking about baseball because Dog had Manfred on today. And look, it's peeing against the wind, boys, with the 3 of us who love baseball, grew up on baseball, to convince kids to be into baseball. But the Dodgers in particular, Scott, do you have an issue with what they've done? Because it seems to be polarizing.
Absolutely not. And I'm not a Dodger fan. I allow myself to be a fan and of Major League Baseball. It's my favorite sport to watch as a fan. And I'm an anti-Dodger guy. I'm an Angels guy, which, by the way, we were eliminated from the postseason on the day catchers and pitchers reported this year. So, but I'm a fan of Major League Baseball. I'm a fan of smart people in front offices and obviously supreme talent. And you put it all together with a good manager and you got the LA Dodgers. And so I have no problem with it. And it's funny, those who do, because baseball ratings up last year, higher than it's been in a long, long time. You get a Yankees-Dodgers World Series. Are you kidding me? What else could you ask for? So, no, I love it. I love what they did. And, I've kind of been paying a little bit of attention to Manfred. I recorded a couple of Rob Manfred's guest appearances today. He's making the rounds, of course, and going to watch him later tonight. I like everything Major League Baseball has done over the last couple of years, speeding up the pitchers with the pitch clock. The Dodgers going out and getting this unbelievable all-star team. I think it's all great for Major League Baseball. I'm a fan.
Yeah, the issue with baseball isn't the actual baseball. It's just how they package it and get it in front of more people that, potentially want to consume it, Scott. But I'm really curious about the sharp community because you've been professional betting for a long time. Obviously, the NFL is king, but those numbers are so super, super sharp that you're betting into. So it feels like more of the sharp bettors, the guys who win, the wise guys, they tend to go towards college football. And then NBA, less involved, more college basketball. What do the sharp people think of baseball and betting baseball through that long haul of the season?
Those that I know of that actually attack baseball the way I do, which is on a daily basis, generally speaking, they're going to stick to it daily, just like they did 15 years ago, like I do. I mean, I'm going to start off with just a couple of plays here and there. I handicap the board every night, but a very good, wise, sharp, old friend of mine who's now 85 years old, but I call him my mentor. I've talked about him on the show before, Sean Hess. He had an old saying at the start of every season, ain't nobody knows nothing about nothing. And so a lot of us who follow that kind of motto will start slowly in Major League Baseball and not play a lot. But I don't really know anybody outside of my or inside of my circle that is like swayed away from betting baseball over the years. I still do it. I still handicap it every single day. And, once we get probably a start for each starting pitcher under our belt over the next week or so, I'll be having bets every single day, and that's just what I like. And a lot of what I've changed, though, a lot of sharps have changed this too. I was just thinking of this as we're talking, is all of a sudden, I used to be full 9 on everything, full 9 innings. And if I'm playing an under, it's first 5 innings. I can't remember the last time I played a 9-inning full game under after that ghost runner rule came into play. So mine are all first 5 innings when I play unders. Obviously, you play overs. I play the full 9 most of the time. I play a bunch of first 5 innings, even first 3-inning bets when it comes to sides. So there's adjustments you make as you go along, whether you're a sharp or not. And if you're a sharp, you can find ways to beat baseball. We had a winning season last year. I had a bad start and ended up with a winning season. After, by bad start, I'm talking like the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then we got it going and ended up with a winning season. But you just got to make changes, man. You could play Yerfy, Nerfy, all that stuff. I do that too. Things we didn't do 15 years ago.
Yeah, it is. And you do have a first 5, which I do like. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit here in Los Angeles. But it is the ultimate dance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I joke with Dustin about it, but it is his favorite sport. He handicaps every game every day. With baseball, I tend to get into like a bit of a rhythm where I'll like the way that a manager is using a rotation, the way that a bullpen is performing, and I'll get stuck on a couple of teams for a few weeks, and then I'll get off. Like it's just such a long grind that if you go through a bad stretch, you can't let it deter you because you just got to keep plugging away.
Yeah, I mean it's really that way for me with any sport. I lost in the conference tournaments in college basketball, and of course I was getting shredded on Twitter by all those lovely people. And then then we go 8-2 the first 5 days of the big dance, and then Sunday I went 0-2, so 8-4. It's just you just got to stick with it, man. And the more you bet, the more you learn. And eventually, during the course of the baseball season, when you learn and see how certain managers or pitching coaches operate their bullpens and use them, you get ahead, you get a little bit of a lead, so to speak, when you're going into your handicapping, understanding what managers are going to do in certain situations. And I apologize for the sunspots on me. I'm not a leopard.
Oh, it looks good.
But as Dustin knows, it's 90 degrees in Las Vegas today, and the sun's coming through my blinds like crazy no matter how I hold them.
Hold on. You guys on March 26th are already up to 90?
Yeah, it was 90 degrees today. Got about 4 or 5 more weeks, and it's days in the pool every day.
Oh, that's right. Dustin's in LA right now, so
I'm in LA, so
that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
I mean,
okay.
Where the weather's perfect every single day. So yeah, I'm not used to it. Real quick, Scott, I know you had a couple win totals that maybe we can bring back up for the season long thing.
Sure.
But when it comes to futures in baseball, I've done the calculations. I've botched it the last 2 years because I had a good futures year 2 years ago where I hit 2 big ones.
Uh-huh.
And then I got overzealous in the preseason with too many, in
Sure.
my account already bet. It's such a long season. Do you ever get into the awards, pennant, division? Do you bet pre-flop, or do you find yourself looking at adjustments in season when it comes to betting on futures?
Both, but pre-flop more than adjusting throughout the course of the season. I mean, I've only got 3 baseball wins totals that I played, and we can talk about them if you like. We talked about them a couple weeks ago, and we can revisit that. But I tend to do pre-flop probably 80 to 90% of those kind of bets. And I might make some adjustments throughout the course of the season, home run win champions, things like that, Cy Young betting. I like to do kind of what one of the guys does at VSiN, Gil Alexander, who I first met 15 years ago, who will do a lot of those, number of monthly wins or which team's going to have the most wins in May and all that kind of stuff. I tend to do that. So obviously that's not pre-flop, but I like to wait. I like to get through the month of April before I start doing that stuff.
Yeah, it is. Look, Dustin, you probably, I don't know if you're a prop better as far as that's, and we were talking about that a little earlier. The younger generation is obsessed with NBA prop betting.
Right.
I don't know if baseball prop betting has caught on with the younger generation like that.
It's hard. So I look at pitching props that it computes for my brain, and maybe Scott looks at some other stuff. The hitter stuff, it's a little too analytical and over my head. It's a lot of projections. It's a lot of algorithms. It's people having systems that they punch the matchup into with like similar pitchers and exit feet. That I can't get into all that. I'm just not. My brain is not smart enough for it. So I stick to the pitching stuff. The pitching stuff makes sense to me, and it's usually more unders than overs. Do you get into any of the props?
Yeah, strikeout props, things of that nature. Yeah. I'm more of a traditional. If you can be a traditional prop player, that's what I'm more into. Like, I'm not really into nerfy-yerfy. And a lot of the young guys that I know that are, bettors now or handicappers in this business have gone like big time into nerfy-yerfy. And part of the reason is they love getting that bet over with in, 30 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it takes to get through that first inning. So it's not something I really look at. I'm more into strikeout props, walk props, anything like that. And I will look at certain things as far as hitting props, but for the most part, it is pitcher based, and it's usually has something to do with strikeouts or total outs by that pitcher throughout the course of the game. And that's about as deep as I go in as far as props are concerned. It's just one of those things. One of the things I think you got to do before you become a professional handicapper, a professional bettor, you're making your money that you use to pay your bills off of wins and losses. You should have a separate account, by the way. But if you do, you got to like what you're doing. I don't like looking at yerfy. I don't want to have my mind thinking about what a team's going to do in the top of the first. So mine's all based off of what I'm handicapping per game, and that I'm looking for either first 5 innings on sides and totals or full game sides and totals. And then my props are based off of that, so that's why I start digging more into pitching props rather than some of those newfangled props.
I'll just say this is separate from Scott Spritzer and Dustin Swedelson. If I see people online talking nerfy one more time, I'm going to
No.
I don't care about your algorithm. It's stupid.
If you want to bet nerfy, let's do this. Just call me up. I'll FaceTime you. We can bet on heads or tails.
There you go.
I'll give you you can choose heads or tails. We can bet heads or tails.
It's the instant gratification. Whatever.
It is. That's what it is.
It's super.
It's smartphone generation, all that stuff.
Yeah. No, it's whatever. Tigers first 5. You got Scooble. So Dustin and I, this was a conversation last night because the Paul Skeens is filthy. We all understand that, and the perception of Skeens, like he said, a heavy ball, but Scooble. He's one of the I watch every start, like most starts from Scooble because I'm a Tigers fan. I'm telling you, he is about as good as it gets. Yeah. He's a lefty. He's a big guy. It's a big target coming at you. His placement is insane. He throws 100 miles an hour. I keep on repeating it, but he does. I mean, he's something else, Scott.
Absolutely, and he gets off to good starts normally. In his career in the first couple of months of the season, he's not struggling. And I've got one play that I'm going to give you, and I'm going to tell you what might not be a bad safety net, if you will. So I do like the Tigers' first 5 innings at the Dodgers on Thursday, and it's last I saw was plus $1.15, and that's what I got it earlier today. But you got Scooble, who's always ready to go. Then you got Blake Snell with the Dodgers. And if you go back to 2021 and you look at his first several starts, March, April, May, if you look the one year that he didn't get a first start till June, that was June and July that I factored into this. So his first several starts of the season, and altogether 34 starts overall since 2021 in this mix. His record's 2-16. That's going to get better simply because he's playing for the Dodgers. But he averages less than 5 innings pitched per start in those 34 outings. 5.78 ERA, $1.58 WHIP. That's Blake Snell early portion of the season. Then he usually catches fire along the way, and that's when you stop fading him in these early season starts. The caveat or whatever, the safety net, I guess you want to call it, there's always the chance that the Dodger bats could go off against a lefty, as much as I like Scooble. And if that happens, I think you're going to see an over, because I do think the Tiger bats, even though they got a couple of the guys like Parker Meadows a little banged up, even though their bats are not quite at full health, I think they'll be able to get to Snell. So that's kind of a safety net bet if folks want to jump on board on that one. But I really think the Tigers in the first 5 innings are going to get the job done. And if you watch that opener in Tokyo with the Cubs, it took the Dodgers 5 innings, 4.5 innings, whatever it was, to really find the rhythm on offense. And so I think Skubal can hold them in check long enough to cash that ticket in the first 5 innings.
Dustin, I don't know if the Skubal against that Dodgers offense is a bigger battle than Scott Spreitzer battling the sun right now. because the best is Scott hangs with us for like 20 plus minutes. So what can happen when that's happening is the sun's actually going to move.
Yes.
So as he's talking, he's inching just a little to his left because it's attacking him, as you can see on YouTube right now.
See, if I was 25 or 30, I would start adjusting the camera, but I'm in my 50s, which means I'll probably knock the entire computer over as I'm trying to adjust it. But yeah, it's like I'm sitting here. I wish I'll know for next week, guys.
You look like Tyson training for a fight. You're like bobbing back and forth.
It's
YouTube,
hilarious.
by the way, VSiN Live YouTube. If you want to check out the video of the show, the whole show is available live and then posted after on the VSiN Live YouTube page. Also, when are you ever going to get a price like this on Skubal? You're not getting plus $1.20 first 5 the rest of the season. Curious what you think of that division, the Central, because it's gross. Yeah. The American League Central is not fun. These teams do not make additions in the offseason. They just rely on young players coming up. We're looking at a market where the Guardians are 3-1, and we saw them for years own this division. Yeah. Tigers are plus 270. The Royals are plus 270, and the Twins are plus 210. We did a preview of this a few weeks back, Scott, and I wasn't kissing Patrick's ass. I think the Tigers, with how young they are and how much better they can get, I have them winning the division. I'm not sure I buy the Royals repeating the pitching that they had a year ago. How do you see the AL Central playing out?
Yeah, I lean towards the Tigers. The scariest part about Detroit is that they have the so-called burden of expectations in 2025. Yeah. So they come into this, they didn't lose anybody from last year, to free agency. They've got Torres, they've got Jack Flaherty. The problem early on in the season is that Meadows and Verlander both are injured, so they won't be playing on Thursday. But you're talking about Parker Meadows, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. All these guys can help that WOBA that Detroit was so bad about last year pick up. Their pitching was fine, but they were like 25th or 26th in WOBA in 2024. So I think that's going to go up as their bats get healthier throughout the course of the next few weeks and into May. And they're my pick, to win that division. Am I going to be shocked if the Twins outduel them in the division? No, I won't. The White Sox are terrible. We all know that. The Royals and Twins have a chance to make some noise. But I'm like you, Dustin. I think the Royals are going to have a tough time reaching the level of pitching that they had in 2024. So it's the Tigers. And it's not, I don't want to say Tigers by default, because it's not by default. It's that, they've got decent bats that have been added to this team. They just got to get healthy.
Look, I can say this because I grew up in Michigan. I have always been an NL guy. Even I understand the DH now. Just aesthetically, I don't know why. I prefer watching NL ball. Maybe it's the parks. Maybe it's the matchups. One thing I can say, the AL Central matchups, like when it's the middle of July and it's Tigers at the Royals, I mean, it is just ugly, grinded out baseball. It does not – I'm sorry. And I can say that as a Detroit fan. It's ugly.
One thing I want to add is that the Tigers, Jackson Jobe made the roster, this kid coming up in the minors.
Yeah.
He's got crazy stuff. He's 8-1 for Rookie of the Year. That's something I'm thinking about there. But, yeah, AL Central, it is not fun at all. Scott, before we had you on, we were previewing the NL East. And this division is loaded with talent. Both Patrick and I like the Phillies to win it. When it comes to power ranking, the Phillies, the Braves, the Mets, what order do you go in?
Phillies, Braves, Mets. I mean, I would have to say the Phillies, the way when I handicap this division in the last couple of weeks by a hair, the Phillies. I like teams that made a little noise in the offseason, but they weren't volatile. And that's kind of what you get here. You don't have all of a sudden a whole group of new players coming in that you got to fit with a bunch, with the guys that are still around. That's why I like Detroit, for instance. So yeah, I would lean towards Phillies as far as coming out of that division, as far as the number one team there, and probably closely followed by the Atlanta Braves, guys, over the New York Mets slightly.
Oh, the Metsies. That is the antithesis or the opposite of the AL Central right there, that division.
Yeah.
All right, let's transition over to the Sweet 16 tomorrow. Scott Spreitzer joining us, Doc Sports, Handicapper, of course. And we'll start here because everybody loves Duke. You're going to take it with the 9.5 with Arizona.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good angles that point to Duke in this one. Steve Mackin, one of your guys, he put out a really good angle in the sheet that came out the other day, 42-25 angle that has to do with offensive. And I think it's like they scored 88 or more in the prior game. Then in the next game, you're 42-25 against the number and 57-10 straight up. There's an interesting angle that goes back to 1990. If you allowed 120 or fewer points in the previous 2 rounds, now you're in the Sweet 16, you're 56%. It's 105-82 against the spread, 56% in that Sweet 16. Now, one of those 4 teams that are in the Sweet 16 that fit that 120 points allowed or fewer in the first 2 rounds are the Duke Blue Devils. Yet I've said all this now, and I'm on Arizona, and I'll tell you why if the sun doesn't knock me off the air. Duke has faced 8 teams power rated inside the top 30. And guys, I know I'm splitting hairs here when it comes to trying to find something wrong with Duke, but they faced 8 teams power rated inside the top 30. Baylor was 29th where they faced them over the weekend. They've covered just 4 of those 8 games. In fact, they've only won 4 of those games outright. I look at the game against Louisville in the ACC tourney, neutral floor, and Duke was laying 6.5. I know they didn't have Cooper Flagg, but they were laying 6.5. Now they're laying upwards of 9.5 against a team that is power rated 14 spots higher than Louisville. And again, Cooper Flagg was part of that equation, but I think it's a little bit overvalued. The swing's too big based just on Cooper Flagg when you got a team like Arizona, who to me has been a top 10 team all year, even when they were sluggish. A couple of times this year, late in the season, early in the season, they didn't play up to expectations. I like him here. Despite those angles, I think the number is a good 1.5 to 2 points too high compared to what I made it, which was 7.5.
How about this Florida-Maryland matchup where, full disclosure, Scott, I've got 85-1 on Maryland to win it all. Now,
Wow.
I don't love having to go through Florida. I also don't love that Maryland head coach Kevin Willard cannot stop talking about his future with the program. I feel like it's making this very, very awkward, and
Yeah.
I think I need to hedge my ticket as soon as possible because right now Florida's laying 6.5, totals 157.5, but this thing might get ugly very early. What are we doing with it?
See that move to the right I just made, man? That was smooth.
That was smooth.
That was my Tyson to the, anyway, yeah. Florida down to 6.5. I kind of like the Gators at this point. Not nuts about it, but I do like them a little bit here. Interesting tidbit floating around out there that I caught on one of the sites. Teams that won a tourney game on a buzzer beater, a la Maryland, have won just 2 of their next 9 games in the tourney. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but when it does, that team doesn't win too much. One could say both teams are fortunate to be here because of what Florida did against UConn, what Maryland did on that buzzer beater. Whichever team is able to adjust to a potential lack of open looks from behind the 3-point line is going to have the best shot to win this game. The Terps shoot fewer threes. They both make a lot of threes. But as far as the Terps, you would think that would benefit them. But having said that, man, the Gators are so strong on the glass. They value the rock. They don't turn it over. I'm going to side with them in this game now that it's dropped down to 6.5. I think that's the way to go here. Again, it's not a huge play, but it's a play.
144 on Michigan State Ole Miss, and you're going to go under that total, Scott.
Yeah, I like 2 things in this game. I also kind of like the Spartans. Michigan State, as you mentioned, where that total is, and they're also about 3.5 in this contest. And we started to see Michigan State take some money in a few shops on Tuesday afternoon. That line has been as high as 4.5, dropped down to 3, climbed up a little bit on Tuesday to 3.5. And you got both coaches who are outstanding in the big dance. Chris Beard, 8-1 spread run. Izzo's on this, 32, 19-2 spread run as big dance chalk. And we've seen number 1 and number 2 seeds taking care of business in this spot over the last few tourneys. I don't like the Rebels' work on the glass. That's a big deal for me. Michigan State is great on the glass at both ends of the floor, and they're 5th in points per 100 possessions allowed. They're number 1 against the 3 on defense. And they did all of that against a top 30 strength of schedule. I think you're going to see a well-played defensive game, and I think Mich State will find a way to win by 3 buckets. But a little bit more than that, I like the under in this contest. One of the reasons I like the under a little bit more than the side is because of my respect for Chris Beard. Everywhere this guy goes, all they do is win. And that's what kept me off from making Mich State any more than like a 1-unit play. That's as big, as deep as I could go with it. And I don't bet a lot of 2-3 unit plays or whatever, but that's what I had to do here with Michigan State. I like the under a little bit more than the side.
Scott, your next Sweet 16 matchup. I love this. I have Houston at plus 650 to win it all. This is a bad situation for Purdue. So for those that don't know, Houston-Purdue meeting up here, they're going to play at Lucas Oil Stadium. They're playing in a football stadium in the Sweet 16 when everyone else is playing in a normal basketball arena. Who does that hurt the most? The team's most reliant on the 3. Now, Houston's a great 3-point shooting team, but Purdue does not play the defense that Houston plays, so at least the Cougars have that in their back pocket. You're going to lay the 8.5 with Kelvin Sampson's group. Tell me why.
Yeah, I jumped on Purdue against High Point, and they had won just 3 of 9 before that game. And then, of course, they went on to beat McNeese also, and I had stayed away from that game. But Purdue, I'll tell you what, their depth isn't great, man. And this season, they're 341st defending the 2-pointer. And one of Houston's so-called weaknesses, if you will, is their 2-point shooting accuracy. It's not going to be a big deal in this game against Purdue, who doesn't defend inside the arc all that well. And also, by the way, we saw against an outstanding Gonzaga team that I would play over Purdue if that was the matchup, is that Cryer and Uzan, man, they were nailing big shots when they needed to for Houston. So they're so good on defense. The offense is looking better by the game. You got 2 guys you can rely on, as we just saw against Gonzaga. And then Houston gets after it, on defense. It's nonstop harassment. I've described Houston on this show throughout the last month as being men among boys when they take the floor. And by the way, guys, not only do I like him here to get this cover, but I think at minus 130, and I don't know if that's where it is today, that's where it was late last night, minus 130 to win the region wasn't a bad deal on the Houston Cougars.
Yeah, no, I love Houston. And Calvin Sampson having an offense, like Dustin mentioned, shooting threes is tremendous. Well, listen, you battled our tough questions, and you battled the sun, and you made it through. that was an impressive performance by
the Sun's been around a long time, Scott. It has not lost many battles in its history.
Yep.
Hey, we kicked its butt sideways tonight, man. Right? Yeah, we started slow, man. First couple rounds, I gave it 10-9 to the Sun, but we came back fighting hard.
That was like Izzo at halftime with the adjustments, where Scott he dodged the Sun, which is impressive. He's a professional handicapper, Scott Spritzer, Doc Sports, DOCsports.com for all the plays coming up on a busy day tomorrow. And you can find Scott on Twitter at Scott Wins with 2 T's. Scott, thanks for the time. Appreciate you.
Great time, guys. Good luck this week.
Okay, good luck to you as well on a busy day tomorrow. All right, so we've got Russell Wilson sound, which I actually kind of want to hear because he's so corny.
Agree.
But you said something which was pretty wild. I had not heard this theory about LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. So we'll lay that out, and we do have the LeBron James sound. He was on with McAfee today. But Dustin has a little interesting theory as to what's happening with Sassy and LeBron. That's coming back. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Now back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Yeah, see, that one thing that Scott said, I lived 3 years in Vegas, and that did not make me miss it. When he said it's 90 degrees there today. It's March 26th, and it's 90 degrees in Las Vegas.
No, look, I thought I knew hot. Like, I lived in Valdosta, Georgia in the summer where it was so hot, and I was like 300 pounds. So I'm over that now. But my point was, dealing with heat at this weight is a lot. And I used to shave my head completely bald, bick it with a straight razor, because if I gelled my hair in that humidity, the gel would just drip down my forehead and then harden once I went inside to air conditioning. That doesn't even come close to what Vegas feels like in July. Vegas in July, I start the day with boxers, I end in a thong, and I didn't change anything.
August is even worse.
It's
It is in September. Honestly, September can be just as bad.
No, September, it does. That's an issue I have with Vegas. It doesn't feel like football season.
Oh, no.
Week one, I understand it still being warm. By week 3, you would like that little briskness in the air to be hitting you, especially on those standalone Mondays and Thursdays where you're getting ready for a night game.
It's 90 degrees on March 26th. Get the hell out of here.
Oh,
You got to be kidding me. So you do have a theory about LeBron. Let's. Mike likes baseball, so let's let him get in and talk about baseball. He loves his Angels, and they're going to be terrible this year. Mike in the OC. Hi, Mike.
Hey,
Hey,
what's happening, you guys?
are you excited? Are you excited for opening day tomorrow?
The crack in the bat, the peanuts, the hot dogs.
the peanuts.
I guess I'll go to a game.
Would you rather watch?
Hey,
Would you rather watch? Hold on. Would you rather watch the Angels opening day or Juju play for USC?
Hey, I hope it went well for her. Patrick, I'll stand by that until I prove it otherwise. By the way, the Lakers are winning a game. Can they put a game? Can the Lakers win a game? My goodness, it's just like a struggle for this team. But LeBron's got a lot going on right now. Anyhow, Patrick, you know the Angel Stadium's the 4th oldest stadium in the major leagues?
I did know that.
You would never think that.
It is great. It's one of those, it's obviously Dodger Stadium, Wrigley, and Fenway in whatever order it is. But then right behind it's the Orange County Stadium.
Right. And the Reds or someone, no, who's it? Kansas City. They're in that mix too. And someone else is behind. I don't know. Someone else is tied.
But it's kind of a dump, though. Do you think the Angel Stadium's a dump or no?
It needs work. Yeah, it needs work. Well, Patrick, it hasn't been. They've only you know what's funny? They've only redone it. They've only done things a couple times. When the Rams came in '80, they enclosed it. The Rams left. They took it out. They did the rock pile. You know the rocks and the waterfall out there. They did that in '95. They haven't done much since. Yeah,
Mike,
it's just kind of from
Mike,
the outside.
Mike, be honest with me here. I need you to not have a bias. If the Angels moved to another city, would anyone actually care? Other than you.
Oh,
Is the fan base that big?
What do you mean? It's huge. No, it's a big fan base. They draw 3 million a year, except the last couple of years because it's been so bad. No, they have a ton of fans. It's a lot of counties going over there. But where are you talking about? You talking out of state or talking about in LA still or in Orange County?
No, I'm talking to a more deserving city with an ownership group that will actually invest into the franchise.
Well, can we just get a nice ownership group here and maybe rebuild the thing? They could actually build a new stadium there in the lot. It's so. Have you guys been there, by the way? Have you been to a game?
I have been. I have been.
And
it was underwhelming.
Patrick went and was depressed after.
Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, look, fake rocks don't do it for me.
I know. It's a little. I was there for Game 7. That was about 2000. We won the World Series. That was. I keep thinking, my God, that was the most exciting thing I've been to. And then now it's just like, oh my God, you walk in, you're like, can we do something here? But let's get Trout out there. Can we get him out there all year? This guy has been hit with the strangest injuries the last couple of years. Just crazy. And I just hope he can stay healthy, man. He's fine to play. Rod Washington was on with Russo. He said he wants to play the whole season. He wants to play 162.
Ron was on? I didn't hear that. He was on with Chris?
He was on. He's great. Washington's great. Fantastic. He's just like that, upfront kind of guy. He's always positive. just talking about the team, talking about I got young guys, I got Trout out there. He drove from New Orleans to spring training in Arizona. He does it every year. Russo loves him. Oh,
I like Ron. I've always been a Ron Washington guy, even when he got busted doing coke.
He got screwed.
I forgot he did that.
I'm sorry. If you're gonna fire people for doing coke, none of my friends are gonna have jobs anymore. All my friends are gonna get fired from their jobs.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. By the way, Patrick, are you gonna go to the Tigers Dodgers? I mean, the Tigers aren't down playing the Dodgers, which is weird.
You know,
you're gonna get out there.
The only tough part about getting to Dodger Stadium is when your show ends at 7 and the game starts at 7:10.
Well,
I will get there at 9:30.
Of the stadiums that it is most difficult to get in and out of, the Dodger Stadium's top of the list.
The worst, Justin. It's the absolute worst. That traffic right there is so bad. You only get in one way out. It takes forever to get in. Takes forever to get. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but it's brutal. But I hope the Tigers do well. I would love, you got a nice team there. Nice young team. It's so weird to see you open against the Dodgers, right? You just keep thinking, can we do AL? I mean, it's so weird now. I don't like
Mike,
it. Mike,
I never agree with you. I hate interleague play. I want to go
back
to
AL
only.
Great. That's a good job by Mike. I let him go.
No, thank you. I'm over interleague play, though. I just it was cool. The
I'm
first
excited
couple
about
years.
Obviously, the Dodgers Tigers, even though it's the weirdest thing of all time.
Yeah, but there is something like I don't think you could explain to kids now the buildup of the only way for certain teams to ever play each other would be in the World Series. Like, there's something interesting about that, and baseball did it for so long. I don't know if I guess that doesn't help with getting the new viewers because now you're wiping out some of the big teams going to other markets. But there was some appeal to me where like the only way the Mets and Yankees were going to meet was going to be in a World Series.
Dude, Russell Wilson is signing footballs at the Knicks game and throwing them into the crowd.
Can I tell you one weird thing about Russell Wilson that it's odd to me? Isn't he kind of like way too jacked for a quarterback? Like his arms are, he has like
he's
big
a big
bicep.
boy.
It's an interesting look. I give him credit, but most quarterbacks don't look like that.
It's just so funny. It's so his vibe to be doing that.
He brought the
to be doing shtick at a basketball game.
Yes or no? Russell Wilson travels at all times with a Sharpie in his pocket for autographs.
Oh, of course. It's just there isn't another quarterback on the planet that literally would be sitting on the wood, signing footballs and throwing them into the stands with Ciara.
She's just along for the ride.
I mean, hopefully there's not another person because then that would mean she's married to more than one person. But yeah, do you want before you give your theory on LeBron? Should we hear from Russell Wilson?
Yeah, we should. By the way, but Ciara was with Future. Like that's a tough dude. The spin zone to go to it's a. She clearly doesn't have a type, and I give her.
You
credit
just said that Russell Wilson's the most jack guy ever. You think he's afraid of Future?
Oh no, Future's. I don't even know anything about Future, but I know Future is scarier than Russell Wilson.
No,
actually. There's a chance that Russell Wilson's nice guy act is a pure psychotic thing where he may be an actual psycho behind the scenes. I don't know.
Dude, rappers are cappers. They're lying about everything. You got something going on with your text thread right now.
No, I was trying to find the video of Russell Wilson that you were talking about.
Yeah, he's got a hat on that says real, and he's signing footballs and he's chucking them from the wood into the stands.
What is that? He is. He literally sat in the front row, signed a football, turned around, and threw it in the stands.
His hat says real, which is honestly, the antithesis.
Whoever caught that football he threw in the stands is probably good enough to be wide receiver 3 on the Giants right now.
All right, let's hear from Russell Wilson. What do we got? What do we have here?
All right, here's Russell Wilson doing a little presser right after signing his contract, which is a little weird, like that quickly. But he said he's excited to join the New York Football Giants.
Coming here, obviously being in New York, it's an exciting place to play. It's a place that wants to win. It's a place that knows how to win and has won before. And so for me, it's bringing everything I know, all the experiences, all the touchdowns, all the wins, but also all the love and passion for the game to this locker room. And that's what I'm really excited for.
Okay, I don't know much, but I do know that was AI generated.
No, dude, he sounds like a method actor like Daniel Day-Lewis playing Lincoln, but someone went to him and was like, hey, Russ, here's what you got to do. Think about what a quarterback in a movie should sound like, and you need to just play that out every day of your life until you die.
I think it's deeper than that. He sounds like Russell Wilson playing Russell Wilson as the Giants quarterback. It's all so corny and weird that it's so meta. He's like, Russell Wilson wakes up and thinks, if I were Russell Wilson, how would I play me?
Yes. What would Russell Wilson do? I don't know, Russ. Just do it.
Is that it from him, or do we got more donkish?
Let's hear this, because he says, despite Brian Daboll being on the hot seat, he says him and Brian Daboll, they share the same vision.
Cool.
Daboll is one of the most competitive guys. You get to see it, in terms of his play calling over the years. He's coached some amazing guys like Josh Allen, guys like Tua, guys like Jalen Hurts in college and stuff, and just some other places that he's been. There's been some familiar people that I know that he knows as well, and that he's close with. And so just we've been able to bond on that.
Dude, the Daniel Jones disrespect in that answer.
Oh,
he didn't bring up Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones and Daboll did make the postseason.
They did. Now, also, that season is why Brian Daboll is on the hot seat now, for being totally fair. Had they not made that playoff run, they would have moved on from Daniel Jones and not paid him $50 million, and now they're stuck in this situation.
Okay, but can I fight back on that?
Yes.
Smart organizations don't allow a fluky playoff run determine if you're going to sign a quarterback for the future. That's the dumbest thing of all time.
No, we need to know if that was a John Mara deal or if it was truly a Joe Shane and a Brian Daboll deal. If John Mara said you're stuck with Daniel Jones, then I can't blame them. Now, he's going to join this offense where Malik Neighbors is a number one. They may have some solid pieces like Wan'Dale Robinson. They have a good left tackle in Andrew Thomas. Russell Wilson went on to go through what his plans are for this new-look Giants offense.
What I really like about Dave's is just his mentality, his attack mentality. We haven't been able to talk a whole bunch of ball yet, but I've been able to see a bunch and over the years and understand who he is and what he brings to the table. So I think that's the exciting part about what we can do and all the guys we have around us.
If you thought for 2 seconds that he wasn't already going to be calling him Dabes, you don't know Russell Wilson.
Bro. The New York Giants just locked up the number one pick in next year's draft. It's not even a discussion. That's not a human being playing quarterback. But he's praising Brian Daboll. I just want you to compare and contrast. Offensive mastermind. Brian Daboll versus Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton looked at Russell Wilson, not last year, but 2 years ago, and was like, it's over. Like, we got to move on from him. I can't win with the guy. Sean Payton was willing to go out there with Bo Nix, who throws ducks, and find a way to win. And now Brian Dabes is going to squeeze whatever's left out of Russell Wilson. The New York Giants are going to be the worst team in football. I cannot wait to buy an Arch Manning jersey.
Russell Wilson signed with the Giants, and 10 minutes later, he's calling the coach Dabes, and he's chucking footballs into Knicks fans' stands. It's like he's at MSG. Don't you get tired? Hasn't it been a whirlwind? Don't you just want to go back to the hotel with your wife and kick your feet up? Do you have to go to the Knicks game?
Yeah, can you just be a normal person for like 30 seconds of your life? Honestly, we brought her up a few times. Being his wife sounds exhausting. It sounds exhausting. It sounds like every day, are we going to kill the day today? Are we going to wake up? It's like living with Gary V, but he happens to play quarterback, and he's not good at it anymore.
I've seen that guy. Okay.
Dog.
He's exhausting. I don't even know what he's selling.
He's like, no, look, you're not making any money. You want a side hustle? All you got to do is rip people off at yard sales. Go to yard sales. Give them 10% of what they're asking for. They're willing to sell it to you. Then you go on eBay and you sell it for 5 times the price.
Dude, that's crazy you brought up that name. I don't know who that donk is, but he popped up on YouTube one time, and I decided he was my least favorite person of all time.
Well, he's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker, and he's someone who does TED Talks. Basically, I just said he's unemployed.
Yeah, he's a grifter.
Yes.
That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to come back with Dustin's theory. It's the LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith theory from the big guy, and that's coming up next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
They're the all-time how do I say that? Procrastination singular event is doing your taxes. Like, you could say studying for a test in college or high school or whatever it is. 100% of human beings put off taxes, and it stresses them out, and it lives in their subconscious.
Yeah, I just thought this is what we beat the British about. I thought no taxation anymore. We don't want to be taxed anymore. What are we doing?
No, it's the worst.
I'm not paying my
right.
taxes. I'm throwing tea into the water.
Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. So, Dustin has a theory. If you missed it, should we play the clip from LeBron talking about Stephen A. Smith on McAfee, and then you can tell us what your theory is?
Yeah, let's do that, Nia. Let's play LeBron number 2, where LeBron James went in studio to Pat McAfee show and said that Stephen A. Smith was getting a little too personal for his liking.
Never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport, criticize players about what they do on the court. That is your job, to criticize or to, be in a position where, okay, if a guy's not performing, that is all part of the game. That's all part of the game. But when you take it and you get personal with it, it's my job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players.
Dude, you exposed your son. This is wild. This guy's wild. LeBron is wild.
If he was protecting his household, he wouldn't have made ridiculous comments about his son being compared to the rest of the NBA and let the kid go finish playing college and develop as a pro.
It's so convoluted. It's crazy. So anyway, they had the run-in where, of course, LeBron wants to keep this low, but decides to call Stephen A. Smith out in front of 20,000 people and social media.
Yeah, so if you guys think this is real, you think WWE is real, because this is a Vince McMahon sketch playing out in front of your eyeballs. Everything about LeBron confronting Stephen A. Smith, who you don't think he has his cell phone number, you don't think he couldn't get it in 30 seconds, doing it in front of the cameras, courtside, so everyone in the world at a Lakers game following the addition of Luka could watch it play out. And the part about Luka is the key part here. He went on McAfee today. He confronts Stephen A. All of this after the Lakers took away his control of the organization, and they're now focusing on the future with Luka Doncic. He is one step closer to retirement. He wants to make sure he is still relevant and being talked about and matters. So what does LeBron do? He aligns with a guy in Stephen A. Smith who's made an entire career about being the center of attention. He is the best at doing it. He makes everything about him, and as someone who does that in every conversation they're in, don't think I'm criticizing. I respect it. I love Stephen A. Smith. I wish I had the skill level that he did. But think about what Stephen A. Smith does. He becomes the story in everything he does. So earlier, a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, audio leaks about a producer criticizing Stephen A. Smith. You mean to tell me while all this is going on, that's not playing a role, that Stephen A. Smith doesn't have a hand to that? He's in the business.
What producer did that? I'm sorry.
There was a producer criticizing him at ESPN. It made the leak like a week. It was leaked like a week ago. I'm willing to bet Stephen A. Smith was perfectly fine with that. Why? He's in the business of garnering attention. What is he constantly doing now? When you Google search Stephen A. Smith, First Take doesn't come up. You know what comes up? Is Stephen A. Smith going to be the Democratic nominee for the next presidential run? Stephen A. Smith knows how to get you to pay attention to him. So LeBron and him have teamed up to keep both of their names in the news cycle, to stay relevant. It benefits both of them, but there is not one, to use a word of his own, iota of truth in this beef between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James.
What does it do? Okay, I understand the sassy part, Stephen A. Smith, but what does it do for LeBron?
LeBron wants to stay relevant. LeBron doesn't want to disappear into the night. He no longer is able to control the Los Angeles Lakers, and he just wants to be able to have a say in how people view him. In fact, since we've been on the air, do you know Stephen A. Smith tweeted about this? Stephen A. Smith, on Twitter. Nice try, folks. On my show, I said I would have swung on King James had he slapped me, like lots of y'all said I was scared he would have done a few weeks ago. I also said immediately after that I would have gotten my ass thoroughly kicked by a 6'8", 250-pound Goliath. But folks just left that part out of my YouTube sentence out. I guess he was being criticized for something. All of this is for attention dollars. It's a currency you don't understand, Patrick. You're not on social media. But even someone as accomplished as LeBron James still just wants people to talk about them. So he's taking a play out of the Stephen A. playbook, and he's aligning with the master of this, and he is staying relevant.
Donks. But I don't hate your theory. It's a good job by the big guy.
I just don't think it's real.
$158. Tomorrow's going to be a huge day, people. Sign up, become a pro for 30 days. You can bail if you want after the 30. VSiN, VSIN.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SIRIUS. That's how you're going to get the deal. Naya, great job. Ryan, as always, great job. The big guy with the theory at the end. And the roads. Tremendous job. We'll see you tomorrow. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.